really to figure out and sense it and point out and stop in the crucial moments, so to make the right decision for them.
Have the players? No?
Yeah, we have.
We do have kickoff.
Games.
We do. So which game should we begin with? We should probably begin with Alireza.
Alireza, yeah.
Against
it's E4,
Magnus.
C5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and e6. Well, we've seen this opening a lot in the World Championship title match between Caruana and Magnus Carlsen. So let's see what Firouzja cooked for today for us. Probably he's going to go castle. And in the other game, we have the French defense. So this is what Rapport thought that he's going to be playing for today.
Okay. So just going to get my database up.
Okay, let's see. Tari played knight c3. I'm very curious whether he's going to play the sharp bishop b4. Rapport. I'm pretty sure that he's going to go for the sharp things with bishop b4, or knight f6 is the other line, the Vinever variation. Interesting that they don't flesh it out so fast, but...
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as well. I think he probably will go bishop b4.
Yeah, sometimes it's interesting which moment the players are thinking, because sometimes even a minute or two can be confusing, that you don't understand why they are hesitating in such early stage of the game.
Well, I guess in Aryan's case, Rich's case, I think it's probably just getting into the mindset and choosing from his creative ideas.
Yeah, but generally speaking, of course, it cannot be the case that he's just choosing which line to play, right? So he has to go either knight f6 or bishop b4, so that's kind of clear that this is the two options, two main lines. And I was always wondering when in such a situation a strong player was hesitating and spending a minute or two, even sometimes they spend like even more time, because obviously they made their preparations, so it's clear that he has to know more or less what he's doing. Though I also had it sometimes myself that I was not sure whether, well, I will decide at the board if this happens.
Yeah.
And we have bishop b4 on the board.
Okay, that's good. So let's move on to Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen, because a lot more moves have been played there.
Yeah, after e6, obviously white has castled, knight g7, rook e1. So probably a6 will be the move. And after that, white is going to be going back to f1 with his bishop. This is what I'm expecting right now. But you know, something interesting happens in the other game. I don't know whether I should be jumping here and there. But there Tari started to be extremely solid. So he chose, instead of the sharp decision to make e5 and then to have some very sharp lines possibly, he chose to play to simplify the position and take on d5. After he takes d5, bishop d3, which means that he wants to have an extremely solid first round against Rapport. It's also possibly because of Rapport's image.
Right.
Yeah. It happened against me also. Yeah. People thought, oh, she's so aggressive, so we have to
kill the game.
Kill the game with this. And I think it has a similar attitude by Tari, that he said, okay, I want to play solid, and I let Rapport to burn bridges in positions where there shouldn't be a good solution to burn bridges. So he wants to provoke Rapport, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I must admit I have done that strategy myself. Whenever I see someone who's not very good at, not so strong at calculating and likes to attack, because attackers tend to be very good with the intuition and kind of like just playing the attack by hand. So what I've always done is I killed the game.
Well,
like
we'll see.
Make the positions simple, and they get tired and they try to be creative. And that's the logic.
Yes, I understand the idea and the psychology behind the decision of Aryan, but we'll see how it will turn out.
Yeah.
Knight e7, of course it will be a developing move. Knight e7, white should be playing knight f3, I guess. But of course, even in solid positions, you can come up with strange ideas. So just because it's a symmetrical position, it doesn't mean it's equal position. So we'll see how Tari was planning to play his game.
Well, this knight e7 is kind of not the main line. The main line is actually to go knight c6. And then the game kind of continues like you suggested with like knight e2,
Knight f3,
knight e2, a3, you know, it's very, very symmetrical, just all about piece play. But I have to tell you that the main line after knight e7 is to develop the queen out to
F3?
h5.
H5. Well, the idea is of queen h5 that definitely black cannot castle because of h7 problems.
That would be embarrassing if that happened, yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I've never seen this before, to be honest, to play queen h5.
No, neither have I. I've long abandoned playing e4, and so I kind of stick to the d4 stuff.
I was an e4 player, but I did not play e takes d5, maybe once in my life or something.
Yeah, I think I played it once as well. And black got an easy draw, and I said, no way, never doing that again.
No, but of course we have a more solid play by Tari, and he played knight f3. This is what I was expecting, actually. So black will castle, and we're going to see a solid game here.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same...
Did you say he castled?
No, he did not castle
okay,
yet.
I was going to say, okay.
Because?
No, I mean, no, I don't think there's any problem, but I have seen some strange responses to castling. White even got ambitious and goes, bishop takes pawn check.
Well, but I guess that's
work.
not something that can happen in reality on this level, because bishop f5 is going to defend everything after queen h5. So after this, white can resign. This will be not the scenario in this tournament, this game.
That's not advisable. And going back to...
We have something very interesting.
Let's go back to the Alireza and Magnus Carlsen game, because I just saw a very strange move.
Yeah, after knight e7, rook e1, and Magnus did not play a6. He went knight g6 to develop. And after c3, he went d5, which after very strange move, h4. Isn't it a novelty?
That's a novelty.
Wow.
Right.
Well, the idea is at first that black cannot take on h4, because then white would be taking, and e takes d5. So there is the pin on the e file. So this is absolutely not something black should consider. After h4, white wants to go h5 and attack immediately the g6 knight. So it's not so easy for black to develop, because right now also bishop d6 is not possible due to e takes d5. So h4 is a very interesting move. And when we were talking before, we were telling this, right, that Alireza is a straightforward player, and he's just there being very sharp and a great calculator as well.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure that this is a home preparation. And when I see moves like this, definitely comes to mind that this is somehow the fruit or the consequences of the engines. Because of course the players are very open-minded to work with the engines. And many times you see the engines say some, especially pawn moves.
Yes.
Like AlphaZero started to bring this in, these pawn moves and pawn sacrifices. And I think you see much more pawn moves, especially on this side, like h4, a4, g4, these kind of moves than, let's say, 10 years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
And which means that the whole chess as a sport, as a game, is changing. Players are going to completely different directions. I remember when I was playing many occasions like g4, h4 kind of moves, and people said, oh no, this is not possible. No, it's impossible that this can be good. But already, just by seeing it, they didn't believe it. And now with the engines, It is definitely known for all players that practically you don't say something like this when you say a strange move, a crazy move, that no, it's impossible, it cannot be good. Well, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you absolutely said it.
Yeah, I remember reading, I've been reading a lot of historical books, and there, you know, the chess is even more defined in its thinking. You know, you have to play in a classical way. And when players like Bronstein were doing different things, they would say, no, you cannot play like that. And now we're kind of gone into an age where a move like h4 is pretty standard. I mean, like you say, AlphaZero introduced it, and I can just say that although no one has played this position according to my database, I love these kind of things, it has actually been analyzed. Someone did take a look at it in 2019.
Okay.
And my guessing is that probably the correspondence players had a go and trying to work out what happens. And I know a lot of the top players, they take inspiration from the correspondence players who are all working with a lot of machines and engines to come up with the best moves. And Black analyzed a whole load of moves. So the main one was actually to attack the bishop. Another one was to just take the pawn. And also your move, on E4. Also your move that you had, yeah, take the pawn on E4 and also attack the bishop with A6.
I think d takes E4 actually would be the first move I would consider, with the idea that after rook E4, I might go queen D5, for example. Attacking the rook on E4, but also more importantly, to stop H5 possibilities for white. So this is one thing I would consider. Also, well, H6 is something, well, H6, then probably H5. Black has to go back to E7, which Black does not want to have, because this H5 pawn is not going to be weak. Actually, this would be a great improvement for white, so this is not something Black would consider. H5 is kind of a tricky move to stop the white pawn to stay on H4, and after that to play bishop E7.
But then it makes castling kingside really difficult.
Exactly, after H5 it's not so easy to castle for Black. At the same time, the H4 pawn can be vulnerable, and if you have to go G3, then it's your king will get some weaknesses. So H5 is kind of a move which I would not like to play with Black, but it can be considered. H6 I don't like, so d takes E4. A6 is a move I think which has to be considered, maybe one of the most logical reply. And if, let's say, white takes and goes H5, Black would be going back to E7. And here already maybe knight E5 is an option, or white just plays D4. And this H5 pawn can give actually a difficult time for Black regarding in development, because it's not so easy to develop for Black, because if Black goes G6, white can even try to go H6, I think.
Yeah, that looks quite a pleasant space advantage there. It's almost like the pawns have just controlled every single square on the board, so I'm not sure about that. And so just going back to your instinct, which normally tends to be the correct move, right?
After H4?
Yeah.
Well,
so take the pawn.
Yeah, but it's also tricky, because after d takes E4, let's say rook takes E4, if queen D5, white can go, let's say, queen E2. But I think some strange things might happen in this game, like in this position already F5.
Wow.
And if rook goes back to E3, knight F4, though the E5 square, maybe it will be very weak. So F5 is not advisable. Because if white can go D4 in the next move, then H4 is not something that I would regret.
Okay.
And also bishop C4 can be kicking away the queen from D5. So, I mean, these are the situations when you're dealing a move like H4 already in a very early stage of the game. It's only move 7. Then you start thinking, okay, it's a new move, so how much my opponent has in his preparation, how much he worked it out.
Yeah.
And you know that for some time you're not playing against Firouzja himself, but you play against Firouzja plus a few engines.
Yes, exactly.
And this is not a good feeling.
No.
When you feel yourself that you're falling into some home preparation.
And when the opponent starts just blitzing out the moves instantly, also a terrible feeling, because it feels like, okay, they've analyzed this before. I was just checking on Ceci. Ceci is the engine that follows Just Carlsen's games. It says pawn takes pawn, rook takes pawn.
Okay, so d takes e4 is the...
And I liked your move. I think your queen move was quite instinctive, you know, but it actually says...
Maybe bishop d6.
Yeah, this is another acid test, because you're asking white, hey.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So white
do
goes
your worst.
h5, knight goes to e7.
Yeah.
White goes, let's say, d4.
Okay.
And suddenly it's a very unusual position because, well, we can get also isolated pawn after taking c takes d4, c takes d4, but I'm not sure it's knight d4 what white is going to play. But the rook on e4 can be very unpleasant for black also, from moving horizontally sideways to rook g4. So for now, I think the h5 pawn is just serving very well white's play.
Like a position like that, to me, it looks really unpleasant for black, because I would be constantly stressing about what to do with the king. And like you say, you mentioned like the rook swinging across to the g4 square, attacking some pawns, and
well, also
I
maybe
guess
bishop d7, black has to develop, and I can imagine also black going queen c7 and long castle, by the way.
Now I like it. Now I'm kind of...
If we make 3 moves in a row with one side, you better like the position, right?
Okay, we actually have a move.
Yes.
So Magnus
a6.
Attacked the bishop.
Yeah. Okay, so now I would be very surprised if white would not take on c6, because he will not waste time by playing bishop f1. I think I'm really expecting him to take on c6.
Okay, so this is incredibly wild already at the beginning. So bishop takes knight.
Bishop takes knight,
concrete stuff. And then let's go direct,
h5.
because after all, it is Alireza Firouzja, and he's an aggressive player. So Magnus has to go back with his knight, and then...
Well, now d4, I think.
d4.
That's kind of a healthy move. Though white can also consider to close the position, because after e5, the 2 bishops somehow they are blocked from black's pawns, e6, c5, this whole pawn structure. And if white can go after that d4, then still it's not so easy to develop, though probably black will try to play knight f5 and play bishop e7. But with these pawn structures, it's not so easy to develop properly. Somehow it seems like there are too many pawns around in the center for black.
Yeah, definitely. And I would be, if I were playing with the white pieces, I would be afraid of allowing the knight to f5, especially when there's no light square bishop on the board. Sorry, it's the Caro-Kann player in me.
So it's a6, and Alireza is thinking right now after a6 what to do. So what happens if bishop f1, let's say, if he does not want to exchange on c6?
Okay.
Still the h4 pawn is a taboo, because the pin is still there on the e file. So now black has a few options. Bishop e7, for example, just to develop his pieces. And after h5, even knight h4, actually, it is possible. So here I can say that white is maybe even behind in development.
Okay.
So it's kind of tricky. But this is, for example, an important moment where you decide whether you go back with your bishop or you take bishop c6, because we have a completely different structure, which means we will have a very different middle game. So this is kind of an important moment.
So I have to ask you, before we should move on to another game, what would be your choice? To go forward, not lose time, or would you just keep the tension? I'm putting you on the spot.
I have the feeling that bishop c6 should be the straightforward continuation here. and after that pushing h5 and then develop somehow with either playing d4 or d3 like takes h5, knight goes back and white goes, let's say, d4. And then it's not so easy to develop because after black takes on e4 takes, as I said, the bishops are
not
tricky.
working so well.
Yeah, they don't have powerful diagonals, which they should have. So I think I would take definitely on c6.
Yeah, okay. Well,
but it depends on the preparation, because it should be, I mean, after h4, if you're not checking a6 by preparing, and actually I'm confused seeing the video from the game.
Yeah,
seeing them, it's kind of confusing that after a6 he's hesitating, right?
You would have thought that.
You expect that.
That this is one of the most aggressive counter-attacking moves.
At the same time, in this moment, it is possible that, I mean, it's not a great advantage for white, it's clear. It's just a very interesting idea, h4.
Okay, yeah.
And now maybe Firouzja is thinking that exactly what we talked about before, that it's just which kind of middle game structure I want to have. So I go bishop f1 and then we go from there. Or I want to go bishop c6, but actually now you know what I'm thinking, that after bishop f1, can black take on e4 and play f5?
Oh.
The idea, I'm very greedy, I'm sorry. I take the pawn. I'm sorry about that, but it's not my game. I'm not going to lose the game. But I mean, white is not developed yet, right?
But maybe white can try to get some kind of positional compensation and just, I'm thinking...
I don't know, bishop c4, attacking the e6 pawn, this is possible. But then let's say black would be taking, and queen f6. Knight e5 is a threat.
Yeah.
I'm kind of fine with this.
Also looks quite reasonable. I'm just thinking of ways that, you know, to be energetic for white. It's not so
yes,
easy.
but let's face it. I mean, white can think about being energetic, but it's not so easy with these kind of pieces. So maybe after bishop f1, d4 and f5.
Yeah. Ugly chess, but looks effective. So
it's a pawn. So let's stick to bishop c6, okay?
Okay.
Let's stick to bishop c6.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the other game.
Yeah, because we have a few more moves here, and
yes,
it does look like you called it.
After knight f3, black played bishop g4. Actually, I had this idea that Rapport, Richie will not go castling. He doesn't want to go with the boring way. And I'm pretty sure that in his mind he says, I might castle alongside.
Really?
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes knight c6, queen d7 and long castle. Sorry.
Is he trying to use the fact that the white bishop has committed to the d3 square?
Well, generally after knight c6, basically the big issue is the e5 square in this system. So bishop g4 is good because it's pinned the knight on f3. White played h3, obviously bishop f5. And actually after bishop g4, after castle, black would not even be able to castle because of bishop h7, right? So this would not be possible. So that is why also I believe that after castle, his plan might have been just to develop with his knight c6, queen d7 or queen d6. It's just possible, especially at one point you can exchange double the white pawns on c3. And why not? After h3, he went bishop h5, and then we have castle in the game.
But what's to stop black from playing knight c6?
That's what I'm expecting, that black is going to go knight c6.
Yeah.
It's a very sensible position. Nothing to complain about.
But how is white going to untangle themselves from the pin?
Well, you can't, because you're not going to go g4 for the moment. That's for sure.
No.
Well, either bishop g5 or bishop f4.
Yeah.
And well, after bishop f4, also knight b5 can be a problem for black. And so I don't know what happens if, let's say,
are there no
knight d4.
Can you not get greedy? That's what I was...
You want to get greedy now.
Yes. always.
Yeah, knight d4 is possible, and after g4, black is going to capture, and bishop g6.
Yes.
Knight b5.
Maybe step back.
Well, no, rook c8 is not the move because white is grabbing the
I wanted
pawn.
to step back with the bishop.
Okay, rook e1. Well, rook e1. Yeah, why not rook e1? I can go b4 first and then rook e1. Well, castles, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back after castle, knight c6. Well, bishop g5 is possible because after that already knight d4 is not good, I think.
Yeah.
Because then already g4 could be very strong because of this pin can be very strong. Bishop on g5. And
Yeah, suddenly that becomes a lot more dangerous with the rook. So let's. Yeah, I like your bishop g5.
yeah, after bishop g5, knight d4 probably does not work, but black can also go h6. And after bishop g4, Richie will not stop himself and going to go g5 and play queen d7 or something, or grabbing on c3 and then play queen d7, let's say. I mean, this is Richie's style. Let's say I wouldn't be surprised if he would play something like this. Right now, I don't know if castle is already possible or no, but I have the feeling that castle is not possible yet. Still, even though that after knight g5, king g6 would defend the bishop on h5, but after that white would be going g4, and white has the advantage. So we have a move, and we have bishop c6 on the board with Firouzja.
Okay. Yeah.
We have bishop c6 and b takes c6. Well, this was definitely the logical continuation, and I would be surprised if not h5 would be the next move, because it's attacked, right? So the knight h4 is a threat, which...
The only other move that I can kind of see would be another forcing move, would be to come out with the queen.
Well,
So
you mean queen a4, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, queen a4 is possible.
And just ask
Absolutely.
questions after.
Probably bishop d7.
Yeah, if you bishop d7.
You
push
want
the
to go
pawn.
h5
Yeah.
and knight e5, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'll go along with that one. Yeah.
Sorry?
I'll go along
Yeah.
with that. Yeah. I hadn't gone beyond queen a4. But yeah, this looks.
Though I'm not so sure that white wants to capture the bishop and
No,
d7.
no. Just to kind of.
Yeah, just to centralize
Just
the knight,
centralize the
right?
knight and just
Queen
again
c7.
develop. Okay, and now we can start with this
Well, d4.
d4 plan.
Though I'm not sure that in this kind of position, is after knight e5, I wouldn't go f6, provoking white, force white to take, and then, of course, it's not. I'm still having trouble to develop with my bishop from f8.
Yeah, but somehow it just feels very weakening to go f6. I mean, just thinking that.
Well, if I could jump over the knight, that would be a really promising move.
You know, whenever I've tried to play the French, I've always thought about my light square bishop. If I could just move through pawns.
That's too much. Yeah, but I mean, normally you should have your bishop on d6. It's only that you have to waste two moves, going knight c8, bishop d6, and coming back. But okay, after queen a4, after queen a4, yeah, queen a4 can be unpleasant because also queen c7 is not possible because of it
Pawn takes pawn, yeah.
Yeah, and there is this both of the pins on the e and the which the queen causing. So after queen a4, well, bishop e7, I don't like it, but maybe I should go bishop e7. So after h5. After h5, what about knight f4?
Always possible.
E takes d5?
Oh,
No, I think I'm
pawn
exaggerating things. Sorry. No, yeah, because after knight f4, e takes d5, knight d5, white goes d4, and it's very pleasant for white. So, well, if I have to go back knight e7 after h5, then still you can go just d4, right?
yeah.
And black should work for his development still quite a bit. Actually, I like queen a4.
Okay. I kind of like it too, in the fact that it keeps white's flexibility open, and also at the same time ask that question to black, hey, what you going to do? And I love your idea of just...
The question is, can I go bishop e7 to sacrifice the pawn? Because let's say if you take, or h5 first, that's the other move.
Yeah, h5 first. And then
h5
after...
first.
Or maybe we can, yeah, okay, no, h5 first, and then now the knight comes, and somehow your knight is going to get to d3, isn't it?
Well, knight e5
Knight
is
e5.
possible, and also e takes d5 again is an
Yeah,
option.
but then maybe knight comes to d3, and now you're not...
Yeah, it's not the same
It's
story.
not the same, unfortunately.
But maybe knight e5 in this position.
Yeah,
Queen c7.
but now we go d4.
Knight h5.
And pawn takes pawn.
Pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn.
Knight takes pawn. It's looking good. I love it.
Depends from which side you're looking at it, right?
We're on fire, Judit. Okay.
Well, let's see whether he's going to move queen a4, because queen a4 it's asking some serious question to black.
Yeah.
Because after bishop e7, by the way, I'm not even sure that queen c6 is not possible. Because after queen c6, bishop d7, queen b7.
Ooh, yeah.
Still, it's not clear whether rook b8, queen a6, bishop b5,
It does feel like we're kind of we've
queen
gone on
a3.
this huge adventure with the queen, and
You don't like it, do you?
I love grabbing pawns.
c4, b4.
B4. It does
takes.
feels like I've kind of gone out on a limb here.
No, actually, white is well, knight d4 on the move, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so queen c6 does not look at first too good. That's why you went h5.
H5, and then
But maybe after h5, knight h4, knight e5.
I like the knight e5. It's
Yeah, knight e5 is annoying for black.
yeah.
It's definitely annoying. Though I'm not sure it's not possible to sacrifice and give up the c6 pawn. Playing something like castle.
Okay. So h6. I know how I.
You don't even counting
Yeah,
take on c6. I mean, you can grab it with both pieces. I was expecting
Okay.
you that you just
Let's
it.
grab. You've convinced me. I should grab.
I'm not sure it's good, but you should grab.
Yeah, I should grab. You know, because it's not
That's
my
the first
pieces.
thing.
So
That's
this is
the
nice.
first thing. So queen d7.
Okay, knight takes.
Well, yeah, this is my question, whether can black have enough compensation because of the d4, and also actually he can grab, and bishop queen g5 is in there as well.
Yeah. Maybe we
Because
can.
after e d knight d3.
Yeah, because I don't like this knight d3. I find that that's really bothering me, so I don't want that. So can we kind of time the greed? So,
Well,
first
you
of
can
all,
go h6 or maybe d4.
d4 first.
Yeah.
And then
takes.
now it's there, and now we can take.
And e takes d5
Yeah.
afterwards.
And now, yeah, knight takes. Yeah, I was
You
going to
can
say knight
take
takes
even
bishop or
first.
whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so queen a4 is the question. This is the main question. playing rook b8.
Okay.
Nice queen trap. No, it's not a trap yet.
But I think the threat is stronger than the execution when it comes to queen takes pawn. I kind of want to chase away your knight. I just want
Okay,
to...
so you chase away my knight, but then it's okay.
Then you go back.
Okay, finally I'm not so unhappy with queen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so rook b8, because after queen takes, bishop d7 takes, bishop b5, right? So this should be good for a good compensation for black. Okay, so rook b8 is the move. Finally, I found something. It was just annoying that everything, you just go h5, knight e5, all these pieces are coming.
Yeah. But still...
Well, you can go d4.
d4.
And
how is the situation like after... You don't really want to be going pawn takes pawn because then the knight comes too. So maybe, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't take on d4, I think. I can wait.
But then how is black going to...
But now I can take on h4, hold on.
Okay.
This is possible.
Knight takes...
Well, probably knight e5 you should be going. If takes, takes.
Pawn takes pawn.
Pawn takes d5. And what about bishop d6? Don't forget this, I always like to highlight that white is not very developed on the queen side.
Can I grab the pawn now? That's true, I totally agree with you. But now
Okay,
you have to come in with your king.
You want to grab this too?
Yes. No, I don't actually. That one looks really dangerous, but I think it's okay.
The audience really feels that it's not our game, but we're just having fun on other people's game.
Well, that's the whole point of commentary.
Okay, bishop h2.
King
f1, go. Bishop d7. And you're trapped.
Well,
d6.
this is a mouse hole, yeah.
King. And then bishop b5.
Yeah. Okay, then that's a problem, yeah.
And again, I would like to highlight. Okay,
yeah.
I just want to go back again and again to these pieces.
Yes. And okay.
So, what happened in the game? Firouzja is still thinking.
He's still thinking, so.
It is very interesting because he went down already to 135, which means he was thinking 25 minutes in a position which most likely was still in his computer or his screen.
Right.
Very interesting.
Interesting times. Maybe it's like a throwback to the past where the players spent a lot of time before working out every single line and delivering some killer ideas. Shall we, while the players are thinking, let's go and check out Richard, Aryan Tari and Richard Rapport in the French. And incidentally, Kevin Winter does ask, he says it's good to see 3 points for a win, a bit like soccer scoring. Hopefully might encourage more active chess. What do we think, Judith?
I generally don't mind to have new ways of approaching the sport itself. And I see and experience that nowadays the top and elite players, they are much more flexible on agreeing to experiment with the different kind of rules and time controls and Armageddon and all these things. Than let's say in the times when I was competing with Karpov and Kasparov. I mean, for me it was impossible to even just to think that Gary could consider that something like this happens.
Yeah.
And also I know Karpov very well, his way of thinking that, I mean, for Karpov it was always the classical chess.
Yeah.
That is chess. All these rapid and blitz and all these things, that's about intuition, that's about other things, but if we talk about chess as a sport, as a serious thing, is the classical game.
Yeah.
And I think by having Magnus as a world champion, of course, he also directs the sport.
Yeah.
Directly and indirectly, whether how is his reaction? Is he ready to experiment himself? Or he would just ignore it and say, no way, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
So from this point of view, it's, I think the sport is changing.
Do you think that if we'd had the scoring system of 3 points for a win and 1 point for a draw, and this had been like initiated for a long, long time, do you think we would have seen those great positional players? Like you mentioned Karpov, do you think he would have adapted his style? Do you think that...
I can't imagine that he would agree to play in something like this, you know, because they were so conservative.
Right.
Like if you win, you win. You score a point. If it's a draw, it's half a point. If you lose, you don't get anything. But of course, even with this scoring system, of course, they would adjust themselves.
Yeah.
I think because they were such a great players like Kasparov and Karpov. I mean, they were there for what, 20 years or more. So when you see someone very good, they adapt themselves in every circumstances.
Yes.
And you can see it very well with Anand, with Magnus Carlsen. When you have to be professional and win in blitz, you win in blitz. When you have to win in Armageddon systems, you win. When you have to be a rapid player, you win. If it's classical, you win because you change your mindset and simply maybe they are not as good in one or another time control or different systems, but still they are better than the other one because still, I mean, their knowledge and all the depths they understand about the game, they can reinvent themselves in the different forms of chess. And I'm happy to see that actually. I mean, when Magnus was at one time or even twice, I think, triple world champion in rapid blitz and in classical. It was nice to see that the quality of your chess knowledge shows also whatever time control you're playing in.
Yeah.
Even though that, of course, when you play blitz, I mean, that's another story. You have to have your good day, you have to have your motivation, your so many things, right? Because it's only 1 or 2 days event.
Well, talking about adjusting, I mean, this is the perfect format for seeing how adaptable the players are because I know Alireza Firouzja and Magnus Carlsen have just finished the US AIM-Chess Rapid, which was online rapid play, 15 minutes plus 10 seconds. Now they're moving on to 2 hours, no increment for the first 40 moves. And then if the game ends in a draw, ooh, scratch that, it goes down to 10 minutes for the white pieces, 7 minutes for the black pieces, no added time until move 41 again, and sudden death scenario. So we're going to see the full range of emotions actually from the players and how adaptable they are because, I mean, if you're playing a tournament like this, so many time controls, would you play aggressively? Would you kind of try to play a little bit more conservatively, so kind of store your strength? Your energy?
Well, for me, for example, it's very interesting to know, and I'm not sure right now what is the actual situation, but I knew like when I was playing rapid games and classical and blitz, I knew that the top level players many times I've heard that they had kind of a separate opening preparation for a rapid game or a blitz game because you analyze, you try to dig deeper and deeper and look for the objective truth. And then you find simply different ideas, which turns out to be not very good. And then you say, okay, this is very difficult to refute, so this is going to be good in a rapid game.
Yeah.
Or this is so interesting. For sure, my opponent, if it's a surprise, they will not able to handle it in a blitz game. So it is interesting that with different time controls, what can you afford or you can experiment. And it is happening, I think, that they kind of have a different, maybe not so objective necessarily, opening preparation. Like they are much more ready to try out different ideas, which is just, they are curious to try out how the opponent will react. Because time is an important issue in chess, of course. So when they don't have enough time, then maybe you can challenge them with the idea.
Yeah, I saw actually talking about that subject, about choosing different openings and exploiting time. Oh, we have some moves we have to go there because that position was so wild. And,
yeah, so they did not hear you with Queen A4 and they went with H5.
Okay, well, direct is good.
And Knight F4, not Knight E7. So it's starting to be something very interesting because the H5 pawn can fall off in a second. And the problem is for white that Knight E5 is not possible because of Queen G5. So the double attack is right there. So instead of Knight G5, well, at first, obviously, I would expect D4 to attack the knight. And after taking on H5, only after that to play Knight E5. But after that, black can go to F6, which I mean, it's a funny route what black went, right? To G8 to E7, G6, F4, H5, and then reach the great spot, I must say, for the knight on F6. And if white is going to capture on C6, queen C7, and, well, white has to go back to E5, black can go bishop D6, and black has a very healthy development in this position. So let's see what else white can come up with. Maybe H6, but knight D3 is also here.
Yeah.
Right now, which can happen. So maybe after knight F4, I would consider anyway D4. I want to go D4 somehow. What about playing E5? And this knight can be
Just looking out the knight.
Well, my plan is to play G4 and trap the knight. But black can go G6, I guess.
Yeah.
And after G4, black goes
knight G7, and then there's still...
Well, white can go bishop G5, bishop E7, bishop H6.
And we
Chasing
take
this knight, kind of, but
okay, but you can just castle.
Yeah.
Okay, there's
King
still some.
G2,
There's King
rook
G2.
H1,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I mean,
We still
I have
can-
my ideas.
White
but
can have some fun on the
probably some
H9.
F5 can happen.
Yeah.
But it's not so easy for white after knight F4. White really have to make a decision. H6 maybe.
But are you? I have to ask you this question that Pudding Shack asks on Twitter. It says, what do you think about the time management of Firouzja? He clearly must still be in his post 7 H4 preparation because he's used more time than Carlsen. It seems a little bit odd, actually. It seems like maybe it was...
Well, don't forget that also Magnus, he did spend only 16 minutes or 15 minutes out of the game. But he's sitting there, and also now while Firouzja is thinking, he is calculating. So he's using the time of Firouzja while he's hesitating. And obviously H5 was something he was expecting. And this is also something I think Magnus does it very well, that he plays pretty fast in these games. And of course this is very important, because if after H5, let's say he would have spent 15 minutes of thinking whether knight F4 or knight E7, then it would give a different picture in the game. Right now it seems, if we look at the position with the time situation, that okay, Magnus knows what he's doing, while Firouzja is hesitating, he's not sure of himself, which most likely is not the case, because I would be very surprised if he would not analyze this.
Right,
I'm
I
just
mean...
thinking that he's hesitating. Should I play H6 or should I go knight E5? No, knight E5 is not possible to go D4.
Pawn takes pawn.
Pawn takes pawn. But actually I don't like, I like queen A4 better.
No, I was just thinking of the forcing moves.
Yeah.
We're taught as children, you know, you check your checks, your captures, your attacks. So,
Yeah.
so pawn takes pawn has to be in there.
But it is indeed, it's very interesting how Firouzja is playing this, because after H4, A6 is one of the most natural moves. But definitely if you play H4, if we go back, what has happened, move H4, which is very interesting. So A6 is one of the important reaction which you have to check, and D takes E4.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can just let it go, right?
Yeah.
And after A6, you have to have in your plans that how you decide. You play bishop C6, you move away, you play E takes D5, or whatever. You have to know your reaction. But also it happens that during the game you try to feel your opponent, how he's reacting. Because if, let's say, after H4, Magnus would have think half an hour, that would have been a different story. But he did not spend so much time. But definitely he's extremely smart using the time of his opponent. So H5, knight
F4, and then...
And now it's Firouzja who is thinking. I would consider H6, but after H6 maybe just knight D3.
I like knight D3.
I'm not sure it's the end of the world for white, because, okay, rook E3 probably... But I think after rook E3, even maybe the best is just to take king G6.
Can you also clamp your knight on D3 and just kind of go C4?
You can have everything.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to be so rude for white. No, but you could win a pawn. I think
Okay.
that should be enough
Oh, okay.
because of takes and g6, bishop h6.
Yes,
I think
that
it's
looks
enough.
great.
But I understand why you were emotionally difficult to give up this knight, right? You
Yes.
just want to have this for the rest of the game. I
Yeah, right.
understand.
I mean, I've seen some great games.
So h6 is also not so good. So what about knight e5, queen g5? What about playing queen f3? Queen e5, d4.
D4. Oh. I guess.
But I'm not sure. I mean, queen h5, queen f4, black just develops with his bishop. I mean, black has a pawn up.
Yeah. And the queen is pretty safe on.
Well, this is a big problem for white, that knight e5 is not possible. Okay, what about playing? Well, if d4, I wanted to play d4 already. Knight h5. No idea what Firouzja wants to do.
Shall we?
Well, let's wait until
Well,
he makes
yeah,
a move.
D4, knight H5, and then yeah,
Sorry, d4, knight h5.
5.
Knight e5, knight f6.
Knight F. I think we have to go E5, and then I think maybe you can play positionally, right? So you go E5, and then maybe you.
Actually, after e5, maybe even f5 is possible.
Oh,
To stop g4.
yeah.
And wherever you move away with your knight, g6 just protects the knight without any problem. And if white would take on f6, then I think it's even possible just to take knight f6 and then develop with the bishop.
But here it does feel like white's got something.
Well, maybe white has some compensation, but I don't think it's more than that. Queen c7, bishop e7, bishop d6. I mean, normally white still has a pawn on h2. I mean,
But that's gone.
well, that's gone.
That's
we
gone.
made effort to lose
Exactly.
that.
And oh, whoops, me and my microphones.
Okay, so after e takes f6, knight f6 would be the move. So there's not much for white in this position. Maybe e takes d5. What do you think about e takes d5?
Okay, so E takes D5.
Well,
has
knight
to-
d3, first of all, you have a move.
Yeah, then
That's a possibility.
that is a possibility.
After knight d3,
Rook E3,
rook e3, queen d5.
and you're staying
But
alive with
even
that
if,
knight.
to be honest, after rook e3, knight c1, though after knight c1 you take on c. No, you can't, because knight d3. So, but if white has to grab it back, c takes d5, black is better.
Yes. Okay.
So white can't really afford to allow black to go to d3. But which means that after knight f4,
D4 is kind of.
d3 or d4,
I like D4. I think you suddenly have to switch into positional mode, pretend you're alpha 0, grab space. Go. This is why I think grab space, and then just kind of go. Well, you know, the knight is offside.
so what
the
about
end.
knight e5? We played knight e5, knight f6, right?
Yeah, this is the issue.
Knight c6, queen c7.
7, and then the knight goes. Pawn takes
Pawn
pawn.
takes,
Knight
takes.
take. I just feel that this is opening up lines for the bishops.
I think black is better.
Yeah, exactly. Black is better, so you've got to close the position down. That's my
Queen
instinct.
a4, king e7.
Yeah,
Black is happy.
Black is
Bishop
safe.
e7.
yeah.
Okay, let them think.
Okay.
I think let's
like
see
that
what
statement.
Let
them
let's see
think.
what
Let them
Firouzja
eat
has
cake.
in mind. I mean, I just don't like it for white now that the h5 pawn is attacked and knight d3 is threatening at the
Okay.
same time. So this is not funny from white perspective, I think. What happened with Richie?
It seems like they've kind of gone into the thinking tank and got lost a little bit there because there's not too much happening. So the knight did come to c6, and I was just checking the database here on Chess24 and saying that, okay, this is actually normal position. It's been played before. And let me just get the ratings. Okay, so in fact, funnily enough, the player of the white pieces in this game in my database is Richard Rapport against Matthias Blumbaum. So the main line seems to be let me just, how to get this up and running.
Well, after knight c6, definitely knight d4 might be a move. But we discussed bishop g5 in this position. Bishop e3 is also possible to stop knight d4. Bishop e3. Or another move, rook e1. I think rook e1 is also something can be considered because knight d4 still does not work anymore because of g4, takes, and on bishop g6, I think, though I'm not sure because of the spin, maybe it is possible with black to take. If bishop g6, h takes g6, well, bishop g5. Well, some interesting thing happening.
Yeah, that's a very interesting line that you showed there. I can tell you the main line. The main line is actually to ask the question to the dark square bishop and attack it with a pawn.
a3?
a3. And then bishop.
I'm not happy with a3. a3, I think black can just take.
Takes.
Do they take and queen d7 or queen d6?
They do, but not too often.
Well, I'm pretty sure Rapport is considering something like this. Or not queen d6, but queen d7.
Queen d7 has been played, and there the kind of idea is just to put the bishop on f4 and yeah. But it's very much along the lines that you're thinking about. That
one castle, I
yeah,
guess.
exactly. So, so they played f6, just with the idea of stopping any potential knight
Here?
coming. Yeah. So f6. This is a game between Polgar and Istratescu. So just to kind of cover.
But you see that it's symmetrical.
Yeah.
Well, not completely because of the double pawn on the c line, but it can be very tactical and chaotic, even though that it started out with a very solid system exchanging on d5. Yeah, well, Tari wanted to go something solid, but maybe we are going to end up with a very messy position.
Oh, for sure. Richard is
Things in
playing it.
Richard's hand,
He
can be
even
messy.
said that himself. He said, people expect me to be entertaining, to be wild, and so therefore I have to deliver. So, and I remember I've only played him once, and I had quite a normal position. Well, actually I was worse, and then I messed up the position so that I was doing really well. And he found a way to kind of initiate even more complications, and then I was lost. I was short on time, and this is a big problem actually. And then I lost. So,
well, he's definitely a very practical player.
Yeah.
So he goes on the psychology, on the time, on the creative part, that you're not finding your way out of it. And well, let's see how much Tari will find his way out, but it's not so messy yet.
yeah.
So after knight c6, what kind of moves were played? a3 is the main line.
A3 is the main line, and other moves.
So I don't know, after a3,
Bishop e3.
After a3, bishop d6 is also just fine, I think. I don't see anything wrong with bishop d6. So bishop c3 is not the only move.
Bishop
which I would
d6,
consider.
and here Richard actually won in a very quick game, 18 moves with the white pieces.
Okay, let's
so,
see. He plays against himself.
Yeah, he plays against himself. Rook e1,
Yeah, the rook has to be on the e file, that's clear.
and well, trouble was initiated. So this is the big consequence of the bishop being on d6. After bishop takes knight, you can go queen takes bishop, and now after knight takes d5,
Queen d5.
queen d5.
Well, okay, but
And then it's two bishops
yeah.
against a bishop and a knight, and
Okay, black is not going to take on f3, that's for sure. But after rook e1, but black has to castle now because he has not enough time to play queen d7 because knight
takes.
d5. This can be a problem. And if black castles, then already bishop h7 takes knight g5 and g4.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so a3 is a provocation.
Yep.
And black's best move, most likely to take on c3, takes, and now he will be going queen d7 or queen d6. But in these positions, it's really double-edged, because if, let's say, once the d3 bishop can be eliminated, then this c4 square, knight a5, knight c4, black can really take advantage. And black goes f6, stop the option to play knight e5.
Yeah, well, it's a fight.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge fight.
Do we?
Okay. And we don't have a move.
It seems like the players are stuck.
And we haven't talked about the confessional booth.
Oh, we haven't spoken about the confessional booth. No. That one completely escaped my mind. So there is a confessional booth where the players can, after making their moves, go to this booth and just tell us what they think. And just to add a little bit of incentive, there's even a prize for the best confessional.
But it seems like everybody's so busy now with their position that it's the last thing that they think about.
I guess the players who are not on the move, they could go in there and just go, hey.
And I remember last time, I think 2 years ago when I was here, then I think Magnus was one of the most active in visiting the confessional booths, and sometimes he likes it. Funny. I'm very much looking forward for him also to visit the booth.
I think the thing is, some of the players feel like, they come in and they make some grand gestures, saying like, hey, I think I got it in the bag, and then they don't put it away, and then,
But it was with Magnus, I remember it was sometimes that it's absolutely, he did it for entertainment for us.
But we won't forget his kind of shh to the camera. But then he didn't win. He had an amazing position, and then he only drew. And then that kind of became the subject of ridicule. I remember Anish Giri in retaliation doing that movement after he won. So you got to have the guts. Would you be if
I was wondering about this, when I saw it for the first time here 3 years ago. I was wondering if during the game I would ever go to the confessional booth. And I mean, just to think about it, if Kasparov would have gone or Karpov, it makes me laugh. I can't imagine. I mean, those times people were so much more serious from this concept.
Yeah.
From this perspective, it's so hard to imagine.
But they are showmen, like Gary.
I can't imagine that Gary goes and says what he thinks. I mean,
what is my opponent doing? I can imagine him going and
chess players are kind of were not sharing any of their thoughts about the game after the game. Even. I mean, look at the World Championship matches. I mean, there was this match between Magnus and Gelfand. No, was it? No, it was Anand Gelfand. Gelfand. And they were so careful. I remember on the press conference, they didn't want to share anything. What did you eat? I have nothing to say.
Really?
What did you do on the free day? I didn't do anything, walking. I mean, but in the Soviet Union, I think it was like so much that you don't give away any of your thoughts, any of your impressions, anything, because it can be used against you in the game, in the preparation or whatever. But Magnus is much more open about this, and I think it has also an interesting effect on the next generation. That okay, Magnus, the world champion, does it. He's okay with it. Then somehow he leads the road, right?
Yeah.
And so it becomes different, and it's very entertaining. And I can't say that it bothers the players. It's just change of mindset, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, Magnus is of a different generation, like you say. You know, for him, streaming is not a problem. He can just be in front of the cameras and share his thoughts, and it's kind of a little bit different.
Honest,
yeah, he's quite an honest.
So
definitely,
he can be phrasing very nicely his opponents when he's second, let's say, and he doesn't win the tournament, and he says
yeah. What I find so kind of lovely to watch Magnus is that when he loses, you can see him be visibly angry with himself. And then you kind of show him the lines, and it's like he uses like chess as some way of getting over these bad emotions. He kind of relaxes and he gets really into the whole chess, and he just forgets everything. I don't know, I've never seen that.
How well he takes, I think.
No, but I mean, he will forget his pain.
Yeah, okay, but this is something that you have to have those skills in order to move on and to perform the best next day or next hour.
Yeah.
Even. And especially in the online events where things are really fast, and you lose a game, you start a new one, you have the playoff. I mean, it is really everything speeds up so much that you have to have this mindset of getting over. I think some of the players I've known, they were kind of players that one game went wrong, and then they were so frustrated that they said, okay, I don't care about the tournament. You can't afford that, right?
Yeah.
And the big champions, that's what distinguished them in one way, that when they lose, they stand up.
Yeah.
It's not that you're like there and you're suffering and you're pain.
But I have good news for you, Judit.
D4.
We have a move. And we just have to remind everyone, we only have 2 games today. The game between Nepomniachtchi and Karyakin has been postponed because Nepomniachtchi arrived late. But he is in the hotel, you don't need to worry about that. And following the games, probably. And second is also here, Vladimir Plotkin.
Yeah, I mean, the seconds are not having an easy task nowadays at all, especially that while this tournament is going on, the seconds have to be preparing and working for the World Championship title match. And they are trying to help him here in the tournament, but also already focusing on the title match in November. So
D4. So I think this is the most natural human move.
Well, this is the move. You can't. You were not able to allow black to go to D3. So D4, knight H5, and let's see after knight H5.
I really like the idea of closing the position down. I think you've got knights. Close the position, and.
But Magnus is not at the board, so maybe he's in the confessional booth. I don't think so.
He's probably strolling around. This is actually something I struggled with, was when your opponent thinks for a long time, how do you maintain your concentration?
I think it depends very much on the position.
That's true.
Because in this position, I think it was not an issue for Magnus to focus and concentrate, because they're not much of an option for whites. Actually, D4 was the main move here. And obviously, he has something to calculate on. And he just came back to the board. And I'm very curious what he's going to be playing here.
I think he'll grab the pawn. I'm going to predict the future.
Yeah.
He's going to grab the pawn. And Alireza, I think, Potkin is the name of Nepomniachtchi's second. Just to kind of clarify that, I did say Plotkin by mistake.
I didn't hear that.
So, not Plutin. I'm trying to keep an eye on all the chats that's happening. So if you do have any questions, please either tweet us, use Twitch, and I will try and keep my eye on them and answer your questions. Okay.
So knight H5.
Knight takes H5, and now I think, when I take into account the clock situation, Alireza now has to speed up. I mean, he went really into the tank, started thinking, and he must have a follow-up to this move. It's the most natural move on the board. Now is the time to play a few moves quickly.
Well, it's one thing that it's time to play quickly, but when you have to play quickly and good, it's not necessarily so easy. Knight E5 is the most obvious move. Knight E5 or E5. I don't see any other moves which can be played. Maybe D takes E5, but that also I don't like. Knight E5, Knight F6. Knight C6, Queen C7. And I don't see why white has a good position, to be honest. Once black knight achieves reaches f6. It just stands so well.
Okay. But can we go to my favorite move, which is to close the position down and just kind of say...
e5.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want e5.
Yeah, I want e5. I've actually done something like this.
Okay, so I wanted to go f5.
f5. Okay.
This is one of the moves. But I'm not sure actually
But
that g6 is so bad. But I don't like my knight on g7, so I want to go f5.
f5, okay.
So after f5, I think there is no other option than to capture it.
It makes the most sense unless you want to play completely positionally. Maybe there's some knight.
Maybe you can take on c5 and bishop c5.
And then knight to d4.
Or to play b4 first.
Yeah.
And after bishop moves away, then knight d4.
Yep.
g6. Takes, knight d4.
But I do feel like in taking the pawn,
You don't want to take the pawn?
I kind of want to establish a bind. So I'd much rather kind of, because you have a bad bishop, a light square bishop. So I'd like much rather kind of.
But pawns count.
Yes.
I know I was also giving them frequently away for compensation, but
Because-
still.
Yeah, I was just, yeah, I had to. So the moves that I kind of really want to throw in is I kind of want to go a4 and, you know.
I think a4 should be
But
slow,
then it should be met by
because
c.
even, well, bishop d7 or c5, I think I'm afraid that this is going to be slow.
I feel that too.
So I would,
And, okay.
or in this position, well, ef6, that's the other move,
Okay,
right?
so ef6,
ef6, knight f6.
knight f6, and then now, what about doing moves like b3?
And you want to go bishop a3, as
Yes.
far as I understand. But still, black has a pawn up. I mean, now I think black can just go knight e4, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like white's development for
But now maybe you can go
this
knight e.
position.
I agree with that. Knight e5. Maybe now we can
You
think
know,
about.
I have a question. What happens if after knight h5, white goes knight g5? If I go knight g5, and now what black is going to be doing?
Knight f6.
Or g6. That's
Or
the other
g6,
thing,
yeah.
Right? So if you go, well, after knight f6, I was thinking that just pushing the pawn on e5. And if black goes back to d7 already, then queen h5, let's say. So to look for some counterattack.
Oh,
g6, queen f3.
okay.
Queen e7. I mean, black is just having the pawn up.
Yep. Well, we have an answer because Firouzja
Oh,
has made a
knight
move. He put his knight
e5.
on e5.
Great. So I would be surprised if Magnus would be thinking too much in this position. I'm really expecting him to play knight f6.
So knight f6. And maybe now
No,
queen a5, queen a4.
Queen a4, black just takes out the pawn, isn't it?
Queen takes pawn
Takes,
check.
queen c6, bishop d7, knight
Knight
d7, knight d7, queen e4.
Okay, but you know, this is not so bad.
Okay,
1, 2.
it's pawn
So
equals.
The pawn
equality.
is material is equal, the piece balance is equal.
Well, I think black is just completely fine. He can, well, I would say d5.
d5 might be a problem
Yeah, I
there.
thought at first that I can go knight f6,
But then queen a4 check.
Queen a4 check. So after knight f6, you went queen a4.
Yes.
And what about playing bishop d7 simply? I don't know if I told you. If I ever told you that your piece.
No, you never did.
Sorry. sorry about repeating myself, but it's already moved 12 and they are still standing where they shouldn't.
It's modern chess. Yeah, I agree. I'm not making the moves.
So what about bishop g5?
Yeah,
I think bishop e7.
bishop e7, yeah. And now...
No, because white should be already just start developing, right? With
Right.
his pieces.
But then, you know, black can also develop this castle. Or is there something
well, after
fancy?
castle, knight c6 already
But
is
then they have-
possible because of exchange.
Yeah, okay, then you have...
So here
knight takes
finally
e7.
white has a better position, for
Yep.
example. Okay.
okay,
So here black has a problem. So castle is not possible.
so
But
maybe...
actually in this position, even bishop f6 might be a move, because then knight c6 and e takes d5. Okay, so finally there is something. So queen a4 again.
Hang on, wait. So here... What about if you capture the pawn?
With this?
Yeah.
Well, this is what we looked. With
Yeah,
queen c6,
queen c6
right?
and then bishop
And then
d7.
bishop d7
Knight takes, then knight, yeah,
takes, and queen e4. And we have a move on the Rapport game. Can you believe that? No, but actually it's a short castle. That's why I'm so surprised. But what happened is that white played bishop e2. Oh, suddenly we have moves on both games. So white went bishop e2, and already now black can castle because the bishop h7 pattern is gone already. Which means I think that black has a very good position, because white was wasting time playing bishop d3 and
bishop
only after that
e7.
going back bishop e2.
Yeah, bishop e2, yes. So do you... Yeah. Do you
Bishop
think
e2
this is
I don't
maybe
like.
first round nerves for Aryan? He just wants to get off the mark, so to speak.
I don't know, maybe he wants to keep the game extremely simple, very solid, so he doesn't want to allow knight d4, or he doesn't want to force a3 to have a pawn structure after bishop c3 that way. And he just wanted to do everything that that Rapport will not castle alongside. But I think black has a fantastic position here.
Yeah.
So he just equalized, and we have queen a4.
We
in the
have
other
queen
game.
a4 on the board, and so now up to Magnus. And the chat is not the chat. The engine is not so impressed.
From which color?
For white, it says.
And actually, white spent nearly an hour by this point.
I know, and this is what makes me a little bit worried for Firouzja, because he won't get any added time until move 41, and even then it's only 10 seconds. It's not like he can just kind of relax and kind of dash off to the toilet, get some break. I mean, he will have to be at the high adrenaline all the time.
What
So-
about playing queen c7? What do you think?
Queen c7? I like that kind of move.
And the idea is very simple. Well, first of all, if white goes queen c6, then you have to do something with the e4 pawn, right? So if white takes,
Yep.
black just captures it back. And
Okay.
if queen c6, I take. With black,
Yeah.
I'm going to go bishop d7. Knight moves away. I can even go c takes d4, having the isolated pawn. And in this position, obviously, the only question is whether black has an advantage or not. For example, knight b4.
Yeah, somehow I feel that this is not really what white wants.
No, but after queen c7, what can he do?
What about just? I like
The
pawn takes pawn,
Okay.
knight takes pawn, and then develop.
Good idea.
Okay,
Good idea. So knight a3 or knight d2.
knight
right?
d2. Let's say.
Yeah, but why sacrifice the pawn for not much?
Yeah, well,
think bishop d6.
the light square bishop is caged in, so knight comes to c4. You know, put the positional hat on and say it's not so bad.
I understand what you mean.
I'm trying.
So takes knight d. Oops, knight d2, right?
Yeah.
What about f6 in this position? Because black should be trying to get advantage here.
Mm-hmm. Knight just retreats, sound the retreat, and hope for the best.
This is not funny for white.
But maybe you can go knight to d3.
d3. Black just captures on d4. Takes, I think, bishop e7. I mean, black has a pawn up.
Yeah.
White can look for some compensation, but let's say if we would have an h3 pawn with white, then we would say, okay, pretty balanced position, right? But it's not there. It's not there. You don't really understand right here immediately if you see the position why it's not there. How did this disappear? But it's not there.
Okay. Okay. So let's go back and after. So I really do like pawn takes pawn. I like that.
Queen c7. Well, does white have any other choice? Maybe knight d2? Okay, you take on d5.
I take on d5 because I really like that idea of just leaving
Knight
you
takes
with some
d5.
bad. Okay, so what are the moves here? What about?
Well, c4 is not something I think that.
Yeah, c4. The knight comes back to. Oh, hang on a second. The
think
knight
I go
goes
to
then
b6.
queen a5.
I go to b6. After queen a5, another pawn.
Yeah.
I won't stop myself
You
from
don't.
taking.
And unfortunately, after.
The next move, I can go knight d5 also. If I want to get out of the pin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so c4 is not really possible.
Yeah, c4 is not really human at all. So. What about
Knight c6 is not possible.
What about moves like b3?
But after b3, I think your queen can get in trouble. Maybe.
Oh.
Well, queen c6, but I mean, this is also something that it's only black can be better, right? After knight b6. But I wouldn't go knight b6. I would go simply bishop d6.
And here I was thinking bishop a3. And then we probably have compensation again.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't allow that. So after b3, well, b3. I would consider to go f6, you know. So to force, and if you go queen takes c6, takes, bishop d7. And black is better. Because after knight a5, black is going to capture this.
Yeah, because then there's bishop.
Knight
Okay,
b4.
yeah, there's knight b4. Yeah, that doesn't look good. I definitely think you can't capture the pawn on c6. I think if there's going to be any compensation to be had, it's just
but after f6, it's not so easy for you to make. Actually, you played b3. I'm sorry. b3, and I play f6. But f6 is a serious move.
Yes, definitely.
We have another move in Rich's game.
Okay.
Two moves actually, because after castle, white played knight h4. So Tari really wants to simplify the position as much as possible, and bishop c3 is played. And I'm not sure he's not getting in trouble already, because right now white has no better than to capture back, because after bishop h5, black would capture a pawn.
Yeah.
So this is something very strange what Aryan is doing, because after takes, Black will capture on e2.
Queen takes.
And right now we have this incredible weak c4 spot.
Okay, do you have
So-
time to go knight a5?
I mean, that's what I would try immediately, knight a5, and if bishop a3, black goes knight, rook e8, and nobody can stop black playing knight c4 in the next move, which means that black is really taking over in this position.
Definitely. I mean, so you do have moves like queen to b. No, that doesn't quite work. So maybe you can have to go.
Well, maybe
Because
no,
c6.
c6. Yeah, c6 is the problem.
Yeah, and then
So I don't know. This is not good for Aryan. This is not good for him. And actually, this is typically what you're aiming with black, right? To have a double pawn after bishop c3, but it works only to maximize and take advantage of this with black. It works only if you can exchange the white square bishop in order to control the c4 square with the knight. So this was a very surprising decision by Aryan to play knight h4, to tell you the truth.
does he have any aggressive intentions? I mean,
No. I think he just wants to.
He just wants
He
to
just
simplify.
wanted to simplify the position. He wanted
But
to
it's-
play very solid, simplifying that, okay, I play against Rapport, who is like crazy. I want to avoid that.
Yeah.
He played rook e8. So, sorry. After b takes c3, takes, and instead of knight a5, he just played rook
Rook
e8
e8,
first.
which also looks great.
Which actually looks also very good move, because now knight g6 immediately threatens to win the knight on
Yep.
h4. So let's say if white would go queen b5, after that I think black can play, first of all he can go b6. It's an option. But even, I don't know, what about a6? Giving up a pawn. And now go knight a5. White goes, where is he going to go?
Don't go to b1.
Okay, so queen b4 and go knight a c4.
Yeah.
And look at this bishop.
It's not good.
It's a very bad bishop. Look at the queen, completely out of the
And there's a
game.
threat in the position, like knight c6 is.
You know what I'm
potential.
thinking? I'm thinking to go rook b8,
Yeah.
to go rook b6.
Ooh.
And also around that part of the board can be some
Yeah.
very unpleasant surprises. But look at this, I mean, the queen is simply, ooh, it's in huge danger.
She can sit on c5 without too much trouble there, but
Oh,
still.
that's what you think. After queen c5, let's say, queen c5, I go rook b8, and after rook b5, you're trapped. If you go a4, I go rook b6, and I'm trying to trap you maybe from c6. It's not so funny for him.
No, but it is quite funny on the board, though. I just like, ooh, is that what
It's so
you think?
scary. It's
Yeah.
so scary for white.
Totally.
I mean, this is the extra pawn white has. You can't be too proud of this fantastic extra pawn with
No.
having his bishop on c1 and rook on
Yeah.
a1. I'm very sensitive on this development part.
Okay.
Have knight on h4. Poor knight over there. Oh my.
No, this is not good. No, this is a disaster. Rewind.
No, but this queen on h5, you can imagine that black is threatening to go, let's say, knight c6, knight a5, knight b7.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. With
The most unexpected traps are there. I like actually rook e8. It was a nice solution. No, this was a very huge positional mistake what Aryan did by playing knight h4.
it looks a little bit odd, if I must be honest, but okay. I mean, are there other kind of alternatives that? So queen b5 we saw is a bit too ambitious, doesn't quite work. I like your a6 idea, and
Yeah, but the problem is if, let's say, white goes,
he has to
can
move the
go
queen.
Maybe bishop g5 has to be done, and somehow to exchange it and just get rid of this bishop.
Yeah, but then the queen will step forward.
Well, you go queen d7 or queen d6, right? And then let's say I just take that bishop, that knight. And after rook e7, white goes queen f3. Finally, at least I have some dream of having knight to f5.
Yeah.
And well, rook e4 is possible. Black is better.
Well, black has to be better, right?
Black
because
is
white
better
has got
after rook
really
e8.
bad pawns.
But we have some action in
Okay.
Magnus's
Oh,
game.
we have
Let's
to
go
head there.
Let's go there because after queen a4, bishop d7 was played.
Okay.
Queen a4, bishop d7.
And
Not
now
queen
he's played
c7.
bishop to g5.
Time to develop.
Yep.
Weren't we looking at this bishop g5 and knight d2?
We did. We did
I
look
think
at
we
this.
did.
And we can...
And yeah, we looked at bishop e7. Let's see what happens if h6.
So if you just take the knight.
Well, if take the knight, my first intention was to go takes.
Knight takes pawn.
But you go here and e takes d5.
And e takes d5. Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, so this is not possible to play. So this is why we were playing bishop e7. Maybe d takes e4. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may ask our audience that what do they think the outcome will be of both games. I would wonder if we can invite our viewers to the hashtag.
Yes. Actually, yeah, I can definitely ask. So this is a very complicated position. What would you play? Ideally, not without.
What will be the outcome of the game?
Yes. I think it's all three results are possible.
So what are you taking in this position?
What am
my provocative question to you.
What am I taking? Well, I have to find a move for black.
Well, Magnus will find a move.
Magnus will find a move. Well, we came up with bishop e7. That was
that's what we considered.
We considered.
No, it's just what is your feeling that will be the end of the game as a result?
Okay, you're asking me to call it, so I think it will be a draw. What's your feeling?
Well, that's the most likely, but if you call it a draw, I should call it something else, right?
Okay.
Well, most likely it's going to be a draw. But okay, I take Magnus, let's say. I mean, for white, I don't give much chance to possibility to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think black is at least equal.
Okay.
What about the other game?
The other game is still...
Here I take black, I think.
Yeah, in the other game I definitely take black 100 times. Yeah, I just think
then
it's
we don't
difficult.
Argue there.
No, I just think that position is very difficult to handle for white. I mean, there's double pawns, so just not great. And I'm very worried of knight a5 coming. And you've highlighted black's coordination is pretty nice. And if queen b5 doesn't work because of your great a6 move.
Well, actually, after queen b5, maybe the easiest to go actually queen d7, you know.
Yeah, but then maybe you can grab the pawn.
Yeah, and
then hide on
rook
a6.
Yeah.
And then
come back to d3, yeah. Okay. I mean, here a6 is possible.
Oh, you're trapping the queen again.
And, well, not trapping exactly. So, well, knight a5,
knight
knight
a5,
c4.
knight c4.
Yeah.
And then here comes rook b8, rook b6. Problems.
Yeah, I mean, here there is not much to talk.
Oh,
yeah, it's like, you know, when you play an opening, I always advise everybody to start to look the middle games. What are you playing for? What kind of structures? Which kind of pieces you have to be on the board? And this is such a typical, very clear situation where you don't exchange the white square bishop when you have bishop c3, b takes c3 structure here, right? When you have this Emmentaler cheese on c4. I mean, this is really too much of a challenge for white to save the game.
Yeah, already we're talking about it being decisive. That just
it's
that
only
one
move
mistake.
12.
Yep, and just remind myself of the clock situation. Also, Aryan has 1 hour on his clock, as opposed to Richard Rapport having 1 hour and 20 minutes. So. Yeah.
Well, okay, the game of the day is definitely with tension, full of tension between Alireza and Magnus. So bishop g5. Still, I see that there is an h-pawn missing here.
Forget that.
Who cares?
Just forget it for the
You
time
know,
being.
I mean, looking at this position, I tell you a story once I had. I was playing a simultaneous exhibition in Budapest at the festival I'm organizing. And usually we have kids and VIPs and celebrities.
Yeah.
And I was playing against one of the celebrity soccer player who was a soccer player, very known, but now he's already in his 50s. And I was playing my game and I had a huge advantage already. And then he always wanted to make some fun. And at one point I was there and I see that my h-pawn disappears from the board, you know? And I say, well, just to make sure that you understand that I follow what's going on.
Yeah.
I know that you took my pawn,
Yeah.
but I have such a good position that you can keep it. So he was kind of very unhappy and happy that, oh, you even noticed this. So it was the same like h-pawn. I have a feeling that it's missing something over there.
That happened to one of my friends. He was also doing a simul, but he was doing a simul in a prison. So someone removed a piece and he was thinking, ooh, do I mention this? Do I not
Yeah, maybe I
mention
would
that?
also keep it that way.
In the end, he said, no, first pair. Give my piece back. And the prisoner suddenly went, hey, are you accusing me of cheating? And they go, no, just put my piece back. So, courageous moment from my friend there.
No, for me it was not so stressful.
Yeah.
Bishop e7 is on the board.
Bishop e7 on the board.
Yeah.
Okay, and here we were looking at just the
Knight
developing
d2.
move,
Yeah.
knight to d2, and then there is some logic because after castles, white can get greedy with knight takes pawn, and
Yeah, I think I would try not to give that pawn back.
yes. Okay, so what happens if you try to hold it tight? You know, queen goes to
c7.
c7. Yes.
I think Magnus has it in his mind to keep the extra pawn.
Oh, for sure.
And you know what? Not only queen c7, I would even consider a lot queen b6. Just simply to put pressure.
But
here
you're
and there.
allowing knight takes bishop.
Oh, I don't care about that. I will just take with the king.
Ooh.
Maybe I'm over enthusiastic here.
I like the idea. I admire your bravery.
Maybe it's too much. And what if I take with the knight? What's the problem?
Bishop takes bishop.
King
Let's get the
takes.
king into the center.
No, okay.
We're
this
happy.
is what I do.
And then
It's good. Both are happy. It doesn't happen very often.
well, we managed to extract one thing. King is in the center, but it doesn't look so unsafe at all, unless there's some.
Well, there is not
Checks.
much for
Well,
white, I think.
no, I
Queen
agree.
a3 to pin, but
Yeah, queen a3 is a nice move.
I mean, you want to go knight b3 probably. But I think black is just better. I go king e8 back.
Okay.
Pawn is a pawn. Okay, I will not castle. That's true.
Yeah, you don't castle, and your
Castle is
rooks are
not.
not connected, so there's hope.
Yeah.
What happens if the knight goes to b3 anyhow?
Well, knight b3, I will go. I think simply c4.
Okay.
Simply c4.
I was hoping you would take on d3.
And look how what is
Okay.
the time management. I mean, Firouzja is already under an hour, while Magnus is 1:23.
Yeah.
So he keeps the time management under control very well.
No, this is, and how many moves are we in?
It's only move 13.
13. Over 1 hour on the clock. With this time control, where there's no increment until move 41, oh, it's concerning.
Well, now in the next few moves, white has to come up with something, because otherwise if black will be able to castle simply, then put his king into safety. But okay, after knight d2, we were discussing castle.
Yeah, but then
which
knight
after
takes pawn.
knight c6, and then we said, okay, this would be bad. Yeah, this is not possible.
This is not good.
After knight c6, black has to capture it if he wants to. Well, that's also equal, but of course I think black is looking for something more than that. So I would go queen b6 maybe. Queen b6, queen c7 is possible as well. Queen b8 is also possible.
Queen b8.
Yeah.
Queen
I would even
b8.
consider. Because, but maybe it's not correct.
Well, we
Because
have the
now
same.
bishop and knight c6, and then he takes d5.
Yeah.
Well, queen b2.
Still difficult to generate play. Knight b3.
Yeah, this would be too complicated. No, queen b8 is not. That's exaggerating. I think queen b6 or queen c7.
Okay, so I think queen c7 might be a natural one because, you know, it keeps the queen in contact with the bishop.
Yeah, but queen b6 is more active.
That's true.
And that's,
Swings
that's
and
the only
roundabouts,
thing.
as we say in English.
Yeah, yeah.
And Magnus doesn't like so much risks. He likes to.
Yeah, but
Be
I
safe
think
and
he
steady.
considers already that it's time to take over.
Yeah.
Because now it's very important that white does not get the initiative, and it would be nice to get rid of the e5 knight to provoke white in some way or another. But okay, let's see what happens if black just takes knight e4. What about this? Knight e4, d takes e4. What would white do? Knight c6?
Yes.
But after knight c6, queen c7, I think.
And then you lose.
And white is in trouble.
Bishop takes bishop.
Bishop
and,
c6.
and then bishop c6, and then there's
the
no way to
bishop
save
is
the
gone.
bishop.
Well, this is important because if white goes bishop e7, queen e7, he goes rook e4. Okay, the d7 bishop is kind of not in real trouble, but it's very passive.
Yeah.
Yeah, this can be not so easy for black because of the bishop. Okay, so knight e4 is not possible. So queen c7,
Queen c7,
queen b6.
Queen b6. So
Yeah.
let's just choose one. So we tried queen b6 and we didn't see anything wrong with that, so that's good. Queen c7.
But maybe after queen b6, you go d takes c5. What do you think?
But there's bishop
Or
takes.
bishop takes. Well, knight d3 is possible.
Yeah, but now can you just? Is there a threat? Knight bishop e7.
Yeah,
Now
but maybe
e5.
e5. Though c5 is possible. c5, queen a3.
And then can you even do
C4.
moves like? Okay, that's nice.
That's the problem. But okay,
Can the queen
a4.
can swing across and then knight
Yeah.
to g8?
This is something Magnus doesn't want. I think he's not going
Yeah.
to do anything where he has to move back with his knight on
Okay, but still,
g8. b4. Here white has compensation. So this is definitely not what Magnus wants. So queen c7. After all, we went back to this move.
okay. So let's try the usual suspects. Pawn takes.
But 1 second, before we go to queen c7, what about bishop f6 on bishop e7? With the idea bishop f6, knight c6. Queen c7, e takes d5, and castle, I guess. Right?
Mm-hmm. Pawn takes pawn?
Which one? You
this
want
one.
to go takes and knight e7.
That's right. Although it might,
Very tricky.
rook takes.
But what about takes rook e8?
Yes, there was that problem. And unfortunately, queen h5, h4 doesn't cut the mustard.
Well, yeah, because takes and rook e8.
Rook e8.
It's not made because of queen d6, but the problem is the
Ah,
pin.
yeah.
The pin is just as
There's no
big.
pawn on h2.
Maybe queen d. Finally, how great the pawn is not on h2.
No, but this is
yeah, okay.
this is not good.
And again, I want to highlight.
Yeah,
Okay, so after bishop f6.
but he hasn't played bishop f6, has he?
No, but he's thinking.
No.
So that's why I'm thinking what he has been thinking for quite some time already. I think he's thinking maybe 5-10 minutes at least.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is worrying. Every single move that he's making is coming with a very long think. And I just have to remind everyone the time control is 2 hours for each player without increment. You only get 10 seconds extra per move on move 41, which means that usually around about move 30 to 40, you're in a time scramble. You won't get any added time after move 40.
But I think it's also this idea came for the organization to have this, that in this way we can have huge time scramble with very long time. I remember when I played with Ivanchuk, I think he had the biggest time trouble against me. He had 1 minute for 20 moves, no increment, and he made it. In Linares I played with him.
He made it.
Yeah. But of course the biggest expert of time travels is Alexander Grishchuk.
Yeah.
It's his trademark.
But it's not fun, you know, seconds left on the clock and you've got your
but
hand
Alexander
hovering.
plays maybe better in time trouble than without the time trouble.
Yeah, well, his instincts are so good, but I mean, for mere mortals, this is not good.
Yeah.
And just a reminder that we are only following 2 games today because the game between Nepomniachtchi and Sergei Karyakin has been postponed until the free day because Nepomniachtchi unfortunately had visa issues. But we can assure everyone that he has arrived to the hotel. All is well.
Yeah, and interesting game to be played on the free day due to this.
Yes.
Between Karyakin and Nepomniachtchi, the two
And
Russian players.
It would be interesting because, of course, they would have missed round 1. So when it comes to this game on the free day, it might not necessarily be like a draw between friends and then followed by an Armageddon.
No,
it might be like
in
a
chess
full-blooded
anyway,
fight.
there are so many friends between each other that
Yeah.
70% of the games would be a draw. If
That's
every
true.
friend makes a draw. So most of the time it happens that players who are friends also, or even just good terms, they may have breakfast together and dinner together, but when they play against each other, they fight it out.
Right. Yeah. I have a question a lot from my students who are always asking me, how do you play with play chess against your friend? And I always say, chess is chess, life is life. Your friendship should be able to survive a chess game as long as you don't play dirty.
Yeah. Well,
And
of
be
course it's not so
unsporting.
easy
Then
because there are situations when one needs the point much more than the other one, right?
Yeah.
And then it's very difficult, but
But still, you know, just a
well,
good,
with me,
fun game.
With my sisters, we were practically made the draw all the time, no matter what was the tournament situation.
Okay. But even if you needed a win, say to win the tournament or
once
something.
I missed the Grandmaster norm because of this. We played in Munich, 1991, I think, 90 or 91, and we had 3 rounds to go. I had to play against Susan. I had higher rating by that time already.
Oh.
And I was playing against Susan with black pieces, and I had two white pieces. And one was against John Nunn, who played the martial attack, and it was easy to make a draw without thinking too much. And then in the last round, I played against Belyavsky with the white pieces. And out of the 3 games, I needed only 1.5 points. And I made a draw with Susan, And I made a draw against John Nunn in a marshal with white. And then I said, okay, I shouldn't be losing this against Beliavsky. And I went against in the Breyer line in the Rai Lopez. I just sacrificed one piece, another piece.
Oh dear.
And then unfortunately he kept it and beat me.
Yeah.
So this is how I ruined my Grandmaster norm.
But you've never been in a situation where like a win against Susan would have given you like a first prize, or would have given you directly the GM norm?
This was the GM norm, which practically would give me the GM norm. Because if I win against Susan, then I make a draw with John Nunn anyway.
And were you happy to accept a draw, especially because you're higher rated?
Well, it was not a discussion, to be honest. No,
okay.
It was not a discussion. It was somehow we had this tradition to not to ruin each other tournaments. And then time to time we played when there was nothing at stake. In Aruba, for example, which was kind of a training tournament for us, or in some occasions, but otherwise we just said, okay. That was
so
my mother's, my parents' wish that no matter who is on what level,
draw. I can tell you, in the UK, this is not the case with siblings.
No?
No. They're encouraged to fight it out. I mean, I know in the British Championship there were two twin brothers who were battling out for a prize, and no, it was a fight to the death.
Well, I don't know, somehow with us it happened that usually anyway you don't play in the last two rounds, right? They don't allow that, siblings or same country also, so it was usually not an issue because it was somewhere in the beginning, the first part of the tournament. So it was okay. Okay, so after bishop e7, Firouzja is still thinking. He's in deep thinking right now. And it seems like Magnus is relaxed. Don't you think so, from his body language?
He's always relaxed. I rarely see him flustered at the board.
So maybe it's time for a confessional boost, what he thinks. He can give us some idea.
Go on, Magnus, tell us what you think. Yeah.
I do think that he considers his position to be comfortable, that he has no problem at all, and he is going to be playing between play for a win, but not risking much. This is my evaluation, seeing the position and seeing his body language.
Yeah. So whilst we're waiting for a move, I thought I'd ask you a question from Bad Bishop, who says, what are your thoughts on this brilliant quote from Magnus? And Magnus's quote was, I don't get revenge by beating people once. And then they ask, what was your sweetest revenge?
Mine?
Yes.
Well, somehow I don't have in my vocabulary that I take revenge on people, you know.
Okay.
But, well, for me, some of the sweetest games, I can say that, for example, after having a lot of struggles against Kasparov, I played in Linares 2001, and we had this double round robin tournament, not 6 players, but 8 players.
Yeah.
There I made 2 extremely interesting draws. So that was kind of a revenge, but kind of that finally I stood there and I gave a great fight to Gary, and even gave him a little heart attack by attacking him the way that he was sweating, but then it was a draw. And but I'm not a revenge kind of person.
Okay. So okay, that's interesting, because I thought all chess players were about revenge. It's certainly something that motivates me when I'm playing. If I lost against someone, I'm going, next time I face them, I'm like, ooh.
No, but many times I was more careful, because if you're driven by your emotions and that you have to win, it can turn out to be the other way around.
That's true. You know, anger, you just need a drop of it, not too much, otherwise it kind of hampers your concentration.
I had many times that I felt that it's a great game, very interesting, goes ups and downs, and then I lose. And then eventually, at one point, I remember in '97, I said, I was playing in Dortmund, and I said, okay, this is not so much fun, that it's a lovely game, queening here and there, and messy, and great calculations, and so on, and at the end I lose. This is not a good script what I have in mind. So I said, okay, now I'm going to change it. And I went to the game, I said, and that was kind of a revenge on Vichy that I'm not going to give in, I'm going to make a draw. So I knew that I'm going to play extremely solid against the knight dwarf, and then he played the dragon against me. Sharp. And I said, you know what? You want really to eat me up right here, right today again? No. So I chose against the dragon the 9 g4 line, which actually can take away all the fire from the dragon. And I just simplify the position very easily. And then he just said, okay, he offered a draw in move 18 or something after we simplified the knights, the one bishop, the queens. And that was a great moment. That's how I stopped him. And after that, I started to win against him time to time.
Sometimes taking that point is so important. Yeah, I agree with that completely. Oh, I love that story. And I don't have any similar. I don't have any similar stories. The only thing I have in similarity to that is we kept losing to the Armenian women 3-0. Oh. But one day we lost 2-1.
Oh, and
we were like, yes. This is good. And the next time we played them, when I was playing on the team, we actually beat Armenia this in the online Olympiad. Then we were all doing little fist pumps. Yeah, it was a strong team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay, so we have some moves. Maybe we should check in on Aryan Tari and Richard Rapport, because we weren't too optimistic about Aryan's chances, and
he went queen f3.
Yeah, he went queen f3, and then the black knight has found itself on c4, and is now attacking a bishop.
Well, he went queen d7. I just played the moves.
Yeah.
Okay. Bishop d2, very logical. He wants to connect the two rooks, but knight a5 comes, which is the most natural way of continuation. Knight on c4. At least the good news is for white that if he goes back to c1 with his bishop, at least he had time to bring from a1 to e1 his rook. So this is a much better version than if the rook would be still on a1. So I think probably he wants to go bishop c1, unless he wants to move to bishop g5. That's also, of course, trying to provoke black, but I'm not sure it's the provocation is so good, by the way.
Well, maybe it takes away
F6.
some squares. So I think now the bishop can drop down to c1, and it doesn't look great, but hey, bishops are long-range pieces. That's what we tell ourselves.
Yeah. But maybe now knight g6 is possible.
And then the idea was knight f5.
Yeah, I was sure about that.
And then perhaps c6.
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't allow white to
What about if you just go c6 and keep the pawn structure solid?
Here.
Yeah.
Okay, rook e2.
And now the knight can come too. Because I'm wondering if the rooks come off the board.
I was, well...
Is this enough to?
I don't know, but now knight g6 is possible.
Yeah.
Now it's another story, because knight f5 is not possible, and after rook e8, if you have to give up the e file and then to go knight f5, it's a very different story.
Yeah, it's
actually black can go back even to knight e7 to chase back the knight.
Well, what about the situation if all the rooks come off the board?
Which might be possible. It helps. I mean, one rook, it helps black.
Yeah.
Both rooks depends on the queen standing. But what black should be very much paying attention to, somehow to gain control over the e file. So if he can take control of the e file as well, then that's a huge advantage. If he cannot take control, but actually black can even sometimes go back to d6, but maybe just going to be playing b5, a5, I mean, to improve black's position.
I like that a lot.
Those are possible. So I'm curious whether Tari wants to go bishop g5, provoking f6, or he wants to move back his bishop to c1.
Okay.
I think bishop f4 is not really an option, because after bishop f4, black would just play knight g6 and exchanging the knight. Or even knight not knight f5, knight g6, I think.
Yeah, knight f5 you have some possibilities. Yeah. I think Richard Rapport has a very comfortable position. with the dark,
Of
the
course,
black pieces.
if he's not going to win this, he's going to be very upset with himself.
Okay.
Not because he has such a huge advantage, but in such a position where you think, okay, I have a clear advantage, I have my knight on c4, I just have to simplify a little bit, exchange some pieces, and technically win the game.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, not that simple usually, but this is a dream position for black, which he has out of the opening, and it's only move 15.
Okay. And I have some
Bishop
exciting
C1.
news for you, actually, because Alireza made a move.
Yeah,
And-
bishop c1 was played actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so knight d7.
Knight to d takes d7, and we didn't look at this one so much, did we?
I think we talked about it. We didn't talk about this? Maybe we didn't. Knight d7. Now the question is, well, of course, queen d7 has to be the first move to consider.
Yeah, queen d7 looks the most natural. I mean, is he worried about...
But you know, even king d7 is possible.
Oh.
But first, of course, you think about queen d7. But
Oh, queen, king takes
maybe it's exaggerating, I don't know.
didn't even enter my radar, Judit. This is what it takes to be a grandmaster. Unexpected
know.
king moves. You know something quite funny? In the Chess Champions Tour, Kaya beat me and David with some king suggestions. We were like trying to figure out what to do, and Kaya's like, just move the king, and we were like, yeah.
And we all know that she's not a big chess player.
She's learning.
She's learning.
She's learning. Yes, you know, we can see that actually during every single broadcast. She's getting better and better, and her suggestions are becoming more and more on point. So, yeah, we're training her.
Okay.
I mean, Norway's next big thing, and she's
Okay.
actually on the chessable courses and studying them. But maybe keep that to yourself, everyone. Okay. Okay. So.
Okay, so queen d7, e5, knight g8.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a pawn up.
It is a pawn up.
It's just nothing to
Okay,
say.
so
nothing
bishop takes
else.
bishop, now played. So the good thing is that the players are speeding up. Knight takes, and
Well, okay, d takes c5 will be taken. There is nothing else white can do.
okay, but it does feel.
But it's interesting that he gave back the pawn, by the way. Interesting.
So what would you suggest that Magnus do now?
I would think, for example, h5.
That's a natural move, securing the f5 square for the knight.
Yeah, to bring the knight to f5, not here, to go to f5, and also after that to go rook h6 and g6.
Ooh.
And g4, let's say. Let's be active.
Oh, I like your command of the pieces. Very good with harmony, as you mentioned.
Yeah, because black king has no need to castle, right?
All I
Because
was
it's a
thinking
close
about was
position.
just pushing the pawn forward
Ah,
all the way to
well,
the end.
actually, maybe h4 and rook h5 is even another option. So let's say knight d2.
Okay, knight d2.
Well, my idea was just to go knight f5 and then go rook h6 and rook g6. But
And if white starts trading, knight to d4.
yeah. Interesting that Magnus gave back the piece, but maybe he had no choice. It's a pretty balanced game.
And what about if you... Is it
What do you
necessary to
wanted?
play
You wanted h4?
Maybe
It's also possible.
h4,
knight f3.
knight f3 is the same issue though.
Yeah. Well, if not h5,
Can you just come in with your knight to f5 immediately? I don't know if that saves any time. And then the whole idea is that to go...
well, knight d2. And then, of course, I'm not going to rush to play g4 with white. But white can just continue knight b3. Actually, this is also an idea.
I have another idea. Yeah, so I like, yeah. What happens if you were to go, if black were to play immediately for the pawn and just go queen a7.
Queen a7.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with b4.
a5 was the idea.
After a5, white goes knight d2 and plays knight b3 next.
And still is an issue, right?
Well, of course you can take, and rook a4, right?
Yes.
To stop. It's important not to allow my pawn to h4. And then rook b1.
And king d7.
King d7.
It does feel that...
Actually, Firouzja is very much going down in time. He has left 36 minutes.
36 minutes. And keep saying this time and time again, but the players do have to be practical because they don't get any increments until move 41, and then it's only 10 seconds.
But maybe now he will speed up. Another option for black actually to play f6 at some point. What do you think about going castle, knight d2 and play f6? Though I'm not sure, probably white would take, and to play what?
Knight. This looks good for black.
Well, knight f3 is very tricky, right? Because sometimes rook
takes.
f3 can be a great compensation.
Let's try it.
Takes, and rook f8. But also another idea I have in mind, just to go knight g6 and control kind of the e5 square. Well, of
knight
course, white
e5.
can go there, rook f8, and rook f1. Yeah, and after that, queen d4, and white is
holding the position.
Yeah, because it's important to block the e6 pawn, right? Okay, so now it's a big question for Magnus whether to castle or he just goes h5. Because if white can make a few moves, then he's going to go his knight to d4. That's clear.
Yeah, this is why I was thinking about queen a7.
Queen b7 played.
Oh, queen b7.
Queen b7 played, putting pressure on the b2 pawn.
Yep.
So now he wants to provoke b4. And probably after b4, a5 would be the move.
Yeah, a5 looks good.
Interesting concept to play queen b7.
What about playing a move like... I think you have to go. You have to push the b pawn.
I was wondering if it's possible to sacrifice.
I also was wondering about that in the pause. So
takes.
But there's no entry squares for any of the pieces. The queen goes to d6, and then, but the queen you can just castle.
Yeah, but black gives up the c6 pawn. There is a very strong pass pawn, the c pawn.
That's true. Okay, so hold on tight. Okay, so let's try to hold on tight with the pawn.
Yeah,
to the pawn.
But it's not so easy to hold on tight. Or king d7, you mean?
No, okay. I don't see
you
these
don't like
moves.
my king d7.
I don't see
I'm
these
thinking
moves.
my rook to b8. It's not the end
It's just
of the
not
world.
on my radar. Aggressive king moves. I don't see them. I don't see them at all. Okay, queen has to step back. Oh, step forward, yes. And now the rook can swing across, but still.
It's not the end of the world, is it?
No.
Rook b3. Okay, so let's go back. Queen b7. Okay. Queen b7. Okay, so giving up a pawn, of course, it can be interesting. b4 is possible.
But b4 will be subject to a5, undermining everything. So
Yeah.
that.
Actually, queen b7, I like the move very much. because it's a typical moment, you see, where the position, Magnus is taking the momentum. If we just see the position castle or h5 or whatever I mentioned before, and white plays knight d2, the position is balanced, everybody is developed, right?
Yeah.
And just in this specific moment, he plays queen b7, and it is pinpointing the fact that white is, you know.
It's your trademark, Judit.
Not developed yet.
Yes. Are you going to lecture Firouzja now when he gets this? So Alireza, please give me a written explanation as to these
what
two
are these
pieces.
pieces doing?
Yeah.
No, but it's,
I
think
mean,
it's
no,
a
but
very,
it's a
very
very
nice,
very
very nice
good
moment,
point.
and showing by Magnus that every move you have to be so much alert, especially at this level, that you have a chance, grab it. And queen b7 is really now making white some difficulty, that either he has to move the pawn, because if after queen c2, I think he would just go queen b5.
Okay, so now you have to go b4.
And then a5 anyway.
And a.
Well, if knight a3, I think he just goes back.
Yeah, I didn't want knight a3. I like to
a4.
a4. That's my trademark, to push pawns.
Yeah. Queen b7.
And now move the knight to d2.
But maybe you can protect.
Ah, okay. Okay, because after pawn takes pawn, you can just go. I was thinking rook b1, but of course you push your pawn to b3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I misplayed something here. I think it's queen c2. Actually, it's interesting. What happens if queen b5, and after b4, black goes queen c4 and bring his queen here?
Okay, the knight will attack
Knight
the
d2,
queen.
and black goes queen f4. Knight f3, knight f5. How is that? Rook d1 and knight d4. Yeah, this is not a big deal for black.
No. Also, you have to think about when you jump out with your knight, there might be some queen a hit and run with queen a4.
And then I go king d7.
King d7. No. Oh no!
What you don't like, but I play king d7.
Gosh, why could I have not even now have that on my radar? Of course, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, I have that's my only move. I think.
Right, yeah. Okay, forget the queen. The queen move. I accept that.
Okay,
King d7.
b4 is on the board.
Okay.
b4. So what
Okay.
does he have in mind after a5?
Step back with the queen.
You mean after a5? he
Yeah,
wants to go
because you
queen
you
b3?
have to do that, right? So you can get pawn takes pawn.
Well, I thought queen b7 is a good move, but now I'm not so sure anymore. b4.
But okay, so a5, you can step back with the queen. There's still some.
Well, a b4 you can't do, because white will be going a4, right? And if rook b8, then simply a3 for the moment.
Yeah. No, I was trying to get it all. I was thinking of castling first and just keeping tension on the board.
After queen b3.
So after queen b3, castling.
Yeah, because after a4, rook b8,
Now
and
rook
you win a
b8.
pawn on b4.
So you have to be slightly.
Though I'm not sure, because I go here and after that rook b1.
Ah, okay.
A5 is on the board.
A5 on the
So
board.
we are progressing the way we are analyzing it.
Yeah, and just looking at the clock situation for Alireza Firouzja, just under half an hour, and
Yep.
Magnus Carlsen just over 1 hour and 14 minutes. And I'm going to say it again, the players do not get any added time until move 41, and then it becomes just 10 seconds per move increment.
Queen B3.
Queen B3 on the board, yeah.
Queen B3 on the
It's
board.
the most natural, I think. And now it's nice to see that Alireza has sped up.
Yeah, and actually we are very seriously talking about the time issues, but not exactly I have in mind what we just talked about, how much time he has on the clock. But let's say if White would have time to place his knight over to D4, that would be kind of magical and it would give a huge advantage for White. So now Black has to make sure that he's not allowing White to go knight D2, knight F3 and knight D4 as quickly as possible. So he has to stop this maneuver.
Can he play radical moves like D4?
D4 is something, it's always there. But for example, what about A4?
Okay.
And if D takes E, B5. So this would be something very bad for Black.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
So after A4, of course, Black would be
Yeah.
playing Rook B8.
Yeah.
But it's tricky because what about knight A3 and after A takes B4, knight C4? It's getting very shaky. He went castle.
Okay.
He went castle. This is what we checked and we talked about
So,
A4.
so what about,
And after Rook B8, we went knight D2.
yeah.
So what
But
happens?
maybe there's still this D4 idea in the air.
After D4, B5.
No. First Rook B8. And so now you have to be careful with where you put your knight, right?
Yeah, knight A3 is not
Knight A-
possible because takes and Queen A6,
Yeah.
Queen A7. And then the A4 pawn is
And
under
if you
attack.
go knight to D2,
And if I go knight to D2,
this is where I was thinking maybe it's D4.
and after knight C4, getting a
I
little
hope-
shaky, knight D6 and
Knight-
B5.
And
after
knight
that.
B6 is also coming.
Knight B6 is also there.
Yeah, consequences, huh? Everything I've done, you've swiftly refuted. So I'd have to go pawn takes pawn, but...
So let's see here after. Okay, knight D2 was played. Interesting that he didn't go A4. Actually, I like it for White now. I
Yeah,
like this pawn structure. It's not so easy for Black.
okay, but he maybe just move the rook over to B8 with the F rook.
Yeah, Rook B8 and White goes Rook B1.
Okay, and now we've got knight to G,
Or now D4.
now D4.
But D4, though, hold on. Can't White take on A5? Ah, no, D4, sorry. Sorry, I got confused here. D4,
But what about knight C4?
knight C4. Knight C4.
But I was just wondering whether, first of all, you could flick in. So before D4, could you flick in moves like knight to either knight to F5 or knight to G6?
Knight G6, knight F3.
Yeah.
And the question is actually whether A4 makes any sense and play. I'm not sure it makes any sense because after that the rook is freed up and then he moves and then he controls the D4 and it looks very dangerous for Black.
No, yeah.
So A4 is something Black should be avoiding. But AB4 is also something he should be avoiding. and everything which allows white to push a4 and b5. Black should stop that, because otherwise it's very frightening. So right now we have castle, knight d2. Actually, now I don't like the queen on b7. It's very passive.
Yes, you'd much rather be on queen a7, right? and
know.
then she could come down to a3.
I have a problem with the structure, because I'm very scared for black to have white knight on d4.
Yeah, that is a big positional threat. And okay, Magnus is a multi-dimensional player, so can Magnus suddenly switch tack and just kind of go f6?
Well, I'm scared of this move.
It was just me suggesting some random moves, so I was wondering whether it was possible. Okay, so
no, the problem is that white goes knight f3, and that
what about
white is planning to take it, but the main idea is still to control the d4 square with the knight.
Okay. What about if black tries everything? So black tries to get it all, and first of all plays rook to the b line.
After f6 instead of f6, right?
Instead of f6.
Yeah, rook b8, this is what we were discussing.
But do you need to do it with that rook? Could you?
Well, rook a b8 also possible,
but then maybe rook a b1.
But my question was, what about a4? And after takes, rook b1. I mean, even if black wants to capture the e5, takes and take on e5, I would be happy to give that pawn, I think, for these double passed pawns.
You have queen to
after queen d4, queen c2. I mean, this looks awfully scary for black.
Yeah, you need nerves of steel here. Hang on, wait a second. You have rook, pawn takes pawn.
Ah, you want some tactics over there.
Yes.
And rook b5.
Rook b5.
Okay, okay, got you. Okay, then I cannot do that. Though after queen d4, I can go queen b4. And that is just fine.
And then in this case, I want my other rook to be on the A line.
Well, we can't have everything, right? When it's like queen c2, you want the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you can go after knight e2, but he went queen a6. I like that diagonal for the queen, though I'm not sure I understand exactly.
Okay, but okay, so his idea is after a4,
well, let's say
queen
after a4 he goes
queen d3.
Yeah.
And then pawn takes pawn.
But what about queen d2?
Yeah. Knight moves somewhere.
Well, I'm not sure you can go if you just go knight f5. Why can't I go b5?
I'm hoping to generate some play around your king, so knight h4,
rook e3.
And that's calmly refuted.
And that is going to be great safety for white.
Yep. Okay.
After queen a6, white just played knight f3. So Alireza is speeding up right now.
That's good.
And his only goal is to reach the d4 square for white. Mm-hmm. Which is understandable, to be honest. So now he's provoking black to make a decision whether is he going to be going knight f5. I think he can go knight f5. Well, I don't know. Do you think he wants to go g4?
No.
You don't like this kind of
No, because there's kind of counter-attacking moves like queen to d3.
Yeah, queen d3, I thought king g2.
Oh, yes, of course. How could I? Okay, yeah, but still, I think, because quite nice with the queen on d3.
Okay, this is exaggerating, but then I think knight f5 can.
But I think you can just go back to the plan of playing
a4. A4 and rook b8, rook b1.
Yeah. Rook
But
b1.
you know what's brutal? I cannot go b5 first, yeah? Okay, so rook b1. It doesn't look good for black.
And now maybe the queen can come down to, and then maybe you need to stir things up and just go f6. But no, that looks horrible. It looks shaky and everything. So don't want that.
But hold on. What about after knight f3 taking on b4 and go queen a4?
Yes.
Or queen a3?
But then can I get some
Queen a3.
bragging rights? Because early on I suggested queen a7.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good. Because this was my idea with queen a7, something like this.
Yeah, but well, the only way black can handle it if he can control with his rooks on the force, right? So if you can go a4 ever, then I'm cooked.
Okay. So you can still go rook to d3.
Rook e3.
No, yeah, hang on,
rook
wait
b1.
1 second. So what was the move before here?
Rook b8.
No, before that. Okay, so maybe
Here.
after queen a3, you don't need to go knight to d4. You can just go rook e3.
Yeah, okay, anyway, after rook a3, rook e3 takes, and rook a4, knight
to
d4.
d4, and standoff. Although I can, although this is not so easy either.
It's not so easy, but it looks very bad for
A3.
black because you can't get out of it. And actually, white's plan is oops, not
knight
knight
c2.
d2, knight e2 and c3.
Knight e2, knight c3, and then you start pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking problematic for Magnus.
So I thought queen b7 was a good move, but now I'm not sure that it was a good move. If this is what black gets, then it's very tricky. Because the black queen is so passive and doesn't find its place.
And he's wasted time with queen b7, queen a6.
Yeah.
It just
And
feels
white
a little
strengthens
bit. Yeah.
his position by playing b4.
So shall we have a quick check-in on
Yeah.
Aryan Tari and Richard
Absolutely.
Rapport? Because, well, suddenly there's a white queen on h5.
Absolutely. So we stopped when he went bishop c1 and a5 was played. With an idea that white played queen h5. What is the plan of queen h5? Let me figure it out. What's the
Checkmate.
idea? But it's nowhere, the checkmate, right?
Not yet. Well, you know, it's an active move. You get your queen to the...
Maybe he wants to bring his knight back from h4 to f3
Like,
and also to e5
that's what he's just
and
done.
to g5. Okay, so rook a6, knight f3.
So it's a nice
Okay,
maneuver.
so this is the position. And now it's a big question what black is going to be doing, because actually f6 sometimes is an interesting idea. It looks weakening, but at the same time, the rook defends the e6 square, so there is not real weaknesses over there. And black is even ready to push g6. So let's say if, bishop cannot
I was
go
thinking
there.
rook e2. You know.
If rook e2, I go g6.
Okay, queen steps back to...
Where? Do you want to exchange?
No.
Well, you don't have a choice, I think.
Do I not have a choice?
Well, you can go somewhere, but knight f5 comes with a tempo.
But if I get the queens off, then...
That's
Then-
why I think queen g4. Where do you go? If you go queen h4, you get knight f5. You have to exchange.
And then I've given you absolutely everything in the position.
And
No,
well,
this
the
is-
only contest right now, okay, for the moment you're attacking the c7 and
Yeah.
you still want to control the e file. But I don't know. If after rook e2, because I like to play g6, queen h4. Knight f5, rook e8, takes, queen f4. Okay.
It's a little bit problematic actually defending that pawn.
Well, probably I have to go queen d7 or something.
But then I just go rook e1 and then...
Yeah, it's not so easy for black also.
No, somehow...
I mean, if black rook would be on e5, then it would be another story.
Definitely.
Okay, so after knight f3, if we go back, the main idea is knight g5, right? To attack both of the white pawns, f7 and h7. So, but also white's idea to go knight e5. So that's why I would think that f6 is a good move. What about playing g6 immediately? Maybe g6 immediately, you know?
Ooh! Queen moves to h...
h6?
Yeah, h6. I don't really want to be swapping off
And
queens.
now knight e5.
And now knight d5. And now, I guess it's the same.
But
I can
now
go...
it's not the same because you go, I don't know where, let's say f4 and now rook
No,
e6.
but I can play rook takes rook. I still have the same thing.
And queen f4 anyway.
Queen
with the
f4
tempo.
anyhow, and you've weakened the dark squares.
Yeah. So actually it's same position with having the white black pawn on f7 instead of f6. g6 on the board.
Oh, okay. g6 on the board.
Yeah.
And, shall we quickly pop back and Alireza Firouzja, he's made a move against Magnus Carlsen. The knight has gone,
Knight
gone to
f3.
f3, knight f3.
Yeah. Yeah, and this
It's
is
still Magnus's move, yeah.
Yeah, and
No.
it's Magnus's move, and he's
Still thinking as to what to do.
And yeah, I think he also now looking at the board that it's a problematic.
Okay.
He's not happy. He cannot be happy.
No, but it's good news for Firouzja that he's under pressure. And his position just feels so much more natural than Magnus. He can make those moves quickly.
And he has space advantage.
Yeah.
Right? So with these two pawns on c5 and e5 and having the d4 square free for the knight, I mean, this can be... I mean, Magnus really has to be careful so much that if knight d4, a5, b5, then it's such a huge advantage for white. So how can black stop this? This is the big challenge. Huge challenge.
And when you look at Magnus's pawn, it's only h7 pawn. That's the
I
extra
would
one.
consider a4 again.
But then you just queen c2.
Queen c2, knight f5.
Okay. And now we can go rook to d1.
Okay, rook d1.
I was afraid of playing g4 because of queen to c4.
Yeah, we showed that. Yeah, I had in my mind that after g4, queen c4. So queen g4 and capturing the knight,
And that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah. But after rook d1, let's say, that's why I thought to play now h5.
So
Knight
this is a
d4?
defensive plan, knight d4. But I mean, I don't know, I feel like white has got...
No, here I think
total
white has
control.
a huge advantage.
Yeah, I mean,
The
he has the
queen
possibility
is completely out of the game.
Totally. I mean, I would just say that white has got a ready-made attack there on the king side. Just
Yeah, I
line
mean, let's say
something.
black wants to move back. I think white can go rook h4 and g4.
And we're in an element, aren't we? Pawn
Well,
takes.
maybe not because queen e7. Maybe this was an exaggeration by me. But I think queen d1 is possible, forcing g6 and then rook f4, rook f6, and
Yeah, and then you're going to open up a line when it's convenient for you, and there's just no tension on the queen side to even counterbalance that. So, no, that's not a good option.
No, that's not a good option for black.
He needs to keep that possibility alive. So, Maybe his plan is difficult to suggest something. Maybe his plan is something that looks. I'm reluctant to suggest it because you might laugh. Queen to c4.
Queen c4?
Yeah. I mean, oh, it looks horrible. Take it back.
Well, probably just takes and
Pawn
rook
takes
e4.
and then knight to, yeah.
Maybe rook e4.
Yes. No. Put it back. Take it off the board. No, I had ideas of a knight coming to d5, and I was thinking, yes, maybe there's some.
Yeah, it's a good square for the knight.
And then
but
pawn
I'm
takes
afraid-
pawn, and then rook f to
But,
b.
no, yeah.
But then the knight comes to d4. We always saw that as a
Rook
consequence.
d4.
Yeah. But still,
Queen c4 he played.
no way.
You see? Queen c4.
No way.
It's a desperation though.
I'm sorry. I wasn't
So
expecting.
you can't be complaining.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's not a good sign, I have to say.
one of my favorite stories about commenting was, I think, my first ever commentary job in the St. Louis chess club. I was so proud of myself because I guessed quite a few grandmasters' moves, and then afterwards I went and I checked them, and every single one of the moves that I had suggested was was like a terrible blunder.
Oh.
And it had cost the player that game. So I was like, okay, well, my guessing game is is great if I'm guessing all the blunders. But yeah, I'm here. I'm not. Well, what can I say?
But I don't know what is the situation. Okay, well, it's move to move actually. Takes.
Yeah. We should point out to everyone that we're not drinking any alcohol or anything. This is just water, flavored water. It's called pure Norway water. So Norwegian water is actually the best one there is. So we do see queen takes queen? No, we haven't seen
I don't
it
know.
yet.
I'm thinking that how does it go? I mean, I understand that this is very important for Black's defense to have the d5 square. But if we check it again, let's say rook e4, knight d5, takes, rook fb8. And this is where we stopped, right? That after knight d4, rook d4, and Black is just saving himself.
But even then, that position still feels slightly uncomfortable.
Takes, and rook b1?
Yep.
Well, probably knight d3.
Knight d3.
I think Black is holding on.
Okay.
Interesting that what has happened after this queen b7. Because I think in this position it's only white who is going to be playing for a win. Well, of course, another question is what happens, let's say, if white moves away. This also has to be considered.
But if that happens, somehow I feel that.
Yeah, rook b8, right? Mm-hmm. Rook b8, rook e1, rook b1.
Or can you go a3? Just to free up.
Yeah. Knight f5. But Black wants to play d4 at some day. Ah, no, sorry, queen c5, come on.
Ah, yes,
This
of
is
course.
a trick.
Oh, of course.
Oops.
Okay, so he.
Ah, so actually things are getting not so easy. After queen b2, rook b8, rook b1 has to be done. Yeah, this is why we played rook b1. Okay.
Yeah, but this is not so. This is not so clear cut, I think, because suddenly Black has a.
But okay, knight f5, and right now Black wants to go d4, right?
Yep. And because White is so tied on the queen side, maybe he can even think at some stage, once he's consolidated his position a little bit, just kind of rook a7 and then f6 and then. The
No,
queen.
now the queen stands okay.
The queen
White
stands
is not
really well
standing
placed. So
too
I think Firouzja has to play queen takes queen.
Okay, so queen c4 takes.
Oh, so according to Ceci,
Okay.
this is the evaluation is 0.00,
Okay.
and it says queen takes c4 is the top choice.
It was the best move.
Is
yeah?
is the best move, yeah.
And with white, queen c4 also the best move.
Oh, okay. So
Or
hang
don't
on,
know.
I didn't check that.
No,
I
okay,
was
so
just
with black it was queen c4 and we have it on the... Oh, we don't have it on the board. Okay, so queen c4, queen takes c4, d takes c4. So I think rook e4 is drawish. I think it's just so forced. Takes, takes. Actually takes first on b4. Takes on b4. No, but actually even c3 is possible, you know? What about playing c3, rook c4, knight d5? Knight d4.
Well, now you have to defend it. Maybe you can go rook a6, rook b8,
Or a8. No, but now, of course, this knight on d5, black
It's
has
nice.
also a heart of the position is the d5 knight. Great move, Jovanka, queen c4.
It was. It was. What can I say? And I know. Suddenly, I see that as top engine suggestion, but I wasn't using it. I was just. I thought, okay,
Queen c4 is
get
done.
the knight to
on the board.
d5. That's it.
Okay, so we have exchanged queens. Let's go back for a second for Aryan's game because they reached the position exactly which we were talking about. Only with a little different move order. Because g6, queen h4, he went f6. With white, he went rook e2, knight f5, takes, 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 and queen f4.
Our guessing game is on point, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So now, how is Richard going to? Maybe he should just forget about the e line. Maybe he should just think about, okay, rook c6 and just control the entry points of the e line, and that's it.
Well, or the other thing is that he sacrifices the c7 pawn. What do you think? Going rook e6, and after queen c7 to go rook e7, pushing the queen back. What do you think about this? And if queen c5, then queen d7, threatening with b6 pawn, queen trap.
Queen trap. That's your calling card. Trap my queen. Always on that c5 square.
Well, you can escape through a7, but
Yeah.
I think giving up the pawn might make sense.
Yeah.
No, I just want to say that even giving up the pawn is an option sometimes, because controlling the e file, it has its importance. Okay, so let's see. Rook e4 is on the board, so actually we are following these moves which we were discussing. So I'm curious whether is he going to be taking on b4 immediately or to play knight d5 first. Though there is not much of a difference. If he wants to take a knight d5, it can be alternating the moves, I think.
Maybe he wants to keep some play on the board, so pawn takes pawn.
Well, the question is if he wants to go c3 after taking.
Yeah.
So after knight d5, rook c4, rook b8, is there any way white can look for something more? For example, rook b1,
Rook takes pawn.
rook takes, and knight d4.
Rook comes down. Maybe you can go
Rook
rook
a6?
c8. Yeah, rook. I was thinking rook a6, but the rook is quite nice on a2, so maybe. Or maybe we can step back with the knight.
I don't think he wants to go back with the knight. Then b5.
Then b5 and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
This, yeah, rook c8 or rook a6, it's both has its idea behind. I was not expecting that Firouzja will get this kind of position. And I'm still wondering what was going on, you know? Somehow in this position, early part of the game, after bishop e7, knight d7. He took on b4.
Mm-hmm.
And now the question
I
is...
reckon he will play c3.
Yeah, this is the question, if it's c3 or knight d5, rook b8.
c3.
Yeah, c3 looks strong because after c3, knight d5 can defend. Right after rook c4, knight d5. So what was this? Knight d4, rook a6, a4, rook b8. Ah, this is very good.
Yeah, and there's just no way for white to push forward with the pawns.
No, I mean, white has to go knight c2.
Yeah, but then we kind
rook
of...
a8, forcing. White has to go here. So what is this? No, but here probably white is good because after rook a4, knight e3 is a threat. Okay, so after cb, c3.
And you want to play rook c4, but you can also play rook b8.
When?
So after rook c4, attacking the...
But I think he's going to just transpose after rook b8 anyway, knight d4.
Yeah, but now you can go rook a3.
That's true. But after that I go here, rook a4, right?
Yeah.
But rook c3, knight d5, rook b3.
Okay. Okay, so you do need to throw in.
Okay, so after cb4, Magnus's move, he's hesitating how to continue. And in the meantime, Rapport played queen d7. After all, he was not ready to give up his pawn.
No. But then rook e1.
Rook e1 has to be the move, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, after rook e1, it's possible that black is going to go knight g7, very strong move. And to go rook e6 or knight h5, king f7.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so easy to make a move for white. Look at this bishop. Such an unfortunate piece, right?
That's true. That's true. But it's a long-range piece. It's a kind of a saying in England amongst our grandmasters that bishops are okay on their starting squares. It's not a disaster. It's not a disaster.
Yeah.
It would be a disaster if it were the knight, but with the bishop, it controls a lot of squares, and you know.
True.
But still, I do prefer black. I think black has a really nice advantage. I mean,
Yeah,
I can
black
just
is
see
a
rook. I
beautiful
can just see moves like rook c6 and then the knight.
Yeah, I like rook c6 also, and then you can regroup possibly your knight.
Yeah, knight to d6, knight to e4, and then
Yeah.
yeah, you can tell that I'm quite materialistic. Yeah. So, okay, so queen goes to d7. Is there any action left on Firouzja game? No, well, Magnus is still thinking. Maybe it's time for us to take a small
few
break.
minutes.
Yeah. So see you after the break.
Da är vi klar.
5 sekunder. E4.
B6.
D4.
D5.
Springer C3. Springer for E4. Dronning D8 sjakk. Løper G5 sjakk.
Kong C7.
Løper D8 matt.
Welcome back, and in our short pause I think there's been quite a few moves played by the players. So the first game that we should check out is Alireza Firouzja against Magnus Carlsen. When we left it, the position was relatively tense, there were pawns still on the board, and then suddenly we've come back to a trade, lots of pawn trades.
So where we left here, I think it was somewhere here after rook e4, a takes b4 was played already, and here the question was whether Magnus is going to be playing c3, knight d5 or something else, and something else worked out because he went rook a4, rook c4, and he just doubled his pawns on a8.
Okay.
It's strange that I was not pointing this out because, yeah, this is something very natural, playing for simplification, getting back one of the pawns, either the a2 or the b4 one. And then white reached out with his knight to d4, exchanging on a2, and after that he went for b5.
Okay.
It's a must to take on b5, takes knight c6, again is something very natural to block the c5 pawn. This is something essential in the defense of black.
Mm-hmm. As Nimzovich wrote all those years ago in his famous book, The Passed Pawn is a prisoner, must be kept under lock and key.
Yeah, and now knight d4 is played by Firouzja, and now it's a question for black how to react, whether can black capture and take the offered pawn on e5.
Okay.
Let's see what's the idea. Rook b4, now the back rank mate is a threat, and let's say if black goes king f8, I think white would be able to give it check, here check, king goes out somewhere, but at first, to tell you the truth, I don't know why is this so good for white. I mean, this pawn is really far away.
I'm struggling to see that as well, because I mean, if the pawn does advance, black simply can play rook to a1 check.
I mean, white could just play f4, right? And only later on to play knight d4.
That's the most natural move on the board for me.
So let's see again what Firouzja has in mind.
Okay, so knight takes
knight
pawn.
e5.
So maybe he has...
Maybe he just wants to go rook c3 or something like that.
Okay. And then his idea is...
that after king f8, and if black would be just going, he's late.
Yeah.
So he cannot catch it with the...
But can he catch it with his rook and then...
Well, it's also
round
not
it
simple, I think, because after rook a8, c6, and after rook c8, c7, in the next move, knight b5, and then it has double the attack towards d6 and a7, capturing the rook.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a nice idea if after knight e5, white just plays rook c3.
Okay. And
if
it's not possible to...
check.
Yeah, king goes to h2.
Check. Here, knight f6.
Then you start... Okay, f3.
Because now there's
cheeky, knight e4 check, yeah.
Okay, and after that, knight d5, rook goes away.
Yeah, but now you can... Now black can simply king f8
knight
again.
on d5 is essential in stopping the pawn on c7.
Okay.
But he did not risk it. and he just went for the knight d4 line. We're getting closer and closer to the Armageddon.
Yes.
Second part of the match, I guess. Rook d4,
King
f8,
King
I
f8.
guess. So what is it gonna be after c6?
Rook
Let's say
c7.
rook c2.
Sorry, rook c2, yeah.
Now rook d6, for example. But I think after rook d6, black
you go-
just goes king e7.
Hang on, can you go g5?
g5. Very tricky. You want to stop white playing the possibility of playing f4.
Yes. I feel
Well-
like I've got all the time in the world to.
Well, white played c6, and now we are waiting. But actually, maybe they're just going to be repeating moves, you know. After c6, rook c2. If white goes rook d8, king
King
e7, rook d7, king e8, and then rook c7.
And how is it if you go g5?
g5. Well, I think white just makes perpetual.
Until the end of time?
Well, unless you want to go to g7.
Yes, let's try. It is, after all, analysis.
Yeah, this can be tricky, as rook c5 wants to go there and grab the pawn on e5. This is actually what's happening. It's on the board that we have rook d8, king e7. Let's see what his next move going to be. Rook c8 or rook d7. Rook d7 on the board, king e8.
And how is this 3 versus 4 pawn ending if
Rook
Firouzja
c7.
were to lose the c6 pawn?
Well, I think it depends very much where the pawns are standing. Probably g5 will be played instantly by Magnus.
Yeah, then I will feel very proud.
Yeah, actually, g5 is a very smart move.
But what happens if no, you don't want to play g3.
Yeah, after g3 you go g4, right?
Yeah.
And then rook c8 here, rook g8 is possible. Or going first rook h8. I mean, it also should be a draw. Takes, and then rook c5, rook g7, and grabbing the
Grab,
pawns.
yeah, and then that would be a draw. Okay. So it's looking like a draw is very likely in this game. What about in the game between Aryan Tari and Richard Rapport?
We had a lot of news in that game. We left it when it was rook exchange on e8, and white played queen f4 to have some counter-attack over the c7 pawn. And Richie played queen d7 defending the pawn. I was considering to give it up, but he says, okay, pawn is a pawn, let's keep it. Rook e1, which is essential, so this is the only way that white can still hold on the game, not giving the e-file. And Richard played g5.
Wow.
Finally, really making very aggressive. Queen g4 and going rook e6, so he found some tactical idea, because the knight is not takeable, because then the discovered check on e1 and then takes on the queen. And white played h4. So things started to speeden up. Rook takes e1, knight takes e1, and black played queen e6, knight d3. So white knight regrouped from f3 all the way to d3, where it might stand better, because at least now knight c5 is there. So I don't know if there is any blunder was made in this position. Queen e4. So now it's a question, how can white survive?
Okay, so the first question I have is queen takes queen, pawn
knight
takes,
to
and knight
c5,
c5,
right?
yeah. So presumably knight to d.
Well, first of all,
okay, you have
black
you
can
take.
capture the pawn, and now the question is which pawn to take for white.
What a,
Probably e4,
okay.
king f7, but this is a huge advantage for black. Black will play his pawn to b6 in
Actually,
the next move.
having said that, this is one of those rare scenarios where the knight is dominated by the bishop. Usually, if you were to flip those pieces over, like you put a light square bishop on c4 and the knight on c1, it would be
Yeah.
the other way around. I have never seen a bishop be dominated by a knight like that.
Well, unfortunately, in this pawn structure, it is the case,
Yeah.
right? That the white pawn cannot do anything to the pawn on knight on c4.
So his whole idea is just simply he will play against this bad piece on c1.
Yeah, and
so he
here black can go back even knight
Yeah, and
f5, e7, d5. He can go h6 and f5, protect the g5 pawn first, and after g5, f5. So this is like at least a half a pawn down for black,
Yeah.
for white, because of these double pawns. It will be extremely difficult to save. And I think even if white wants to exchange the knights on d2, it but if black
definitely. But
Yeah,
having said
and
that,
we
we have a
draw.
result. So we have to show the ending of this game between Alireza and Magnus Carlsen, because that game has finished in a draw, which means only one thing. We are going to see an Armageddon match.
And
And
Firouzja has to win
yes,
if he wants to win the match.
Firouzja will have 10 minutes on the clock. Magnus Carlsen will only have 7 minutes. The players won't get any increment until move 41, and then it'll be 1 second increment per move. This is
practically it's enough only when you want to give checkmate
Yes.
situation, and then you can just within
But it's,
1 second you can give a checkmate.
but you know, this is an online chess.
Yeah.
You can't pre-move anything. You have to be physically ready with your hand. I don't know. What do you think about this 10 minutes versus 7 minutes?
It's very difficult to say, because I remember that 2 years ago we had a lot of debates between the players that who prefers which color. In principle, white should be a great advantage because white is taking the initiative and has 3 more minutes. So it should be a great advantage, but it's in practice, I'm not sure at all that this is the case.
Okay.
If somebody is playing extremely fast, as Firouzja, for example, a very fast player, maybe he would be more happy to play it with the black pieces. But I think it very much depends on the opening also.
Yes. I just remember, I think it was last year where Magnus was playing an Armageddon match against Firouzja, and Firouzja's hands were literally shaking on the board.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, he was losing a knight. What was it? It's an end game.
Yeah, it was something very basic.
And it was a pawn end
Yeah,
game
but
at
he
the
was
end.
he was shaking because the nerves got too much
Yeah.
for him. And of course, the players are now going to have to make a big switch. They've been focusing. They've been preparing for this classical match, 2 hours time control, and now they have to make a huge change.
Yeah, and they have, I think, only about 15 minutes.
They have 20 minutes to prepare. Oh,
We see that the chessboard and the chess pieces are
but we
getting
should show
ready.
how the game ended, actually, because I think we predicted it here in the analysis.
Yeah, after rook c7, Magnus did play g5 to stop all the possibility for white to defend the pawn on e5, but actually it was a perpetual check, because after king c8, king e7, rook c7, he went back to e8. He did not try to play king f8 and play further,
Yeah.
because he didn't feel that there is too much of a practical chance in this position. He could have tried it, but there is not much chance anymore. I think the simplest way actually was after check and king g7, probably just to go c7, and the black king can't really go out because then the rook would be moving. So, but I saw after the game that that Magnus was kind of not happy. I think after the game, he didn't feel that he reacted the best way in the middle or late part of the opening. I think there he went wrong somewhere.
It felt like he had the momentum, actually, you know, because yes, Firouzja played this really cool new move, 7h4, but then he spent lots of time on the clock, and it felt like Magnus was actually starting to get the upper hand, but then...
Yeah, then it started to be extremely dangerous.
Yes, and I think towards the end, he had to be very precise and
Yes.
was quite lucky actually to find some great moves. Shall we go back to, whilst we get prepared for that Armageddon match?
Yeah.
Let's go and check out.
We still have the same position where we stopped between Aryan and Richard after Queen e4. So now White is hesitating. What is the best way of surviving this endgame, which is quite a challenge for White, because we're discussing Queen takes e4 if the simplification starts. And the problem for White that if, let's say, he would be moving away with his queen, then simply knight h4, and even there's a threat of mate on g2. So I think the only other move which can be something to consider is maybe f4,
Okay.
which looks very scary, I must say, because after f4, maybe knight e3 can come.
It does feel like White has burnt a lot of bridges by
And,
that pawn move.
After takes, I think Black would be taking this. King h2.
And you can still play Queen e.
But to be honest, I was also considering what happens if knight takes e3, with the idea if White would go there,
The king hides.
king, and king goes to g6,
Is
and
that
the
some h?
mate.
There's an h5 in there.
h5 still
Oh,
Black
no,
can take,
yeah, you
because
can
the
take.
queen is defending the h7.
Although, yes, okay.
Yeah, but the question is whether in this position still White can simply go king f2. Though it looks very shaky, I must say. Knight g4. Well, okay, Black, White could maybe not take on c7, but he can go king f2. But it looks awfully dangerous, I think. I
But
think
maybe
this
he needs to
can-
do something like this.
Yeah,
I
but
mean-
this is, I think he simply will get mated or something. No, I think White cannot do this.
So you think White's best chance of holding a draw is actually to...
he also decided that he goes for the exchange, takes, he went knight c5, and now Black really has to be making a decision, though I don't think there is much of a decision to make, and
He
went
has taken the pawn,
taken.
so we are getting very good with our guessing game, so knight...
So now I think knight e4 is a must, because if White goes knight b7, then Black will go h6,
H6.
and after that f5 next move, and the pawn phalanx here, the 4 pawns, will be really decisive. While after knight e4, it is also very very difficult for White because of king f7, and here I was asking whether knight d2 is a possible move. Maybe after knight d2, actually b5 will be the reaction.
But then knight takes knight.
Knight takes knight, okay, so White eliminated this extremely powerful knight on c4, but those 3 pawns,
Oh, Judith, you will not be happy because we have a move. Knight
Knight
takes
d7.
b7.
I don't believe in this move, that this
Yeah,
can save the
and
game.
interesting
I think
enough-
the e4 pawn was more important for White.
I think so too. When you kind of put it so eloquently that it's all about the kingside pawn majority, that'd be 4 versus 2, then you realize, oh yeah, shouldn't do that, must take the e4 pawn.
Yeah, because the question is there any chance for White to eliminate this knight? And now I see very little chance. Basically, he has to go 1 move, 2 move, and then possibly to go knight d2. So let's see if h6, knight c5, f5, White goes knight b3. Though, to be honest, maybe, yeah, no. f5, knight b3. So let's say king f7, and White goes knight d2. So maybe he can be in time for trying to save the game, though it's very hard to believe for me. I mean, knight d2, let's say knight takes d2, takes
And then the whole point is that,
a4,
oh, okay.
because I don't want...
You don't want to allow
I don't
a4.
want- yeah, I don't want to allow a4 and possibly c4,
Yeah.
and then this is hanging.
And White will
So
fix the weaknesses,
A4,
yeah.
c4, and okay, let's just go the f4.
Okay, and now if the white king starts, I was going to say
This
start
was
running.
Not the move, you know. Rapport played also very interesting, I think. He went back knight to f5 because he does not want to give up his knight position on c4. So when white goes knight c5, he wants to go knight d6, and now it is supporting the other knight on c4. And only later on he wants to go h6, f5, and how smart he is, I think. Because really stabilizes and, well, it's like 2 pieces against 1.5.
Yeah. No, I mean, it seriously is. And I think it's a great display in dominance that Richard has here.
But knight e6 is possible, you know, with the idea after c6 to try to chase the pawn.
Okay.
Okay, knight c5, the knight b5 is the problem.
And then knight takes c6, and then knight takes pawn.
Yeah.
And you have to use some time
And
to
then-
defend
then,
against the
well, you cannot
e2
defend.
check.
Yeah. Okay, and this is the position we are having right on the board already. Knight c5, knight f to d6, defending the e4 and strengthening, supporting the other knight. Oh, actually, knight e6, knight b5 immediately. Even better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
even
nice.
give up the pawn.
And still the king will come in on those light squares.
So black's plan is very clear to play h6, king f7, f5, and when the pawn is protected on h4, the e4, then knight b5, and the c3 pawn cannot do anything. So maybe white has to go a4 in this position.
But if you go a4, I mean,
At least the b5 square is taken away. But okay.
king f7 is the move that comes to
What
me.
about this?
And then, but you know, our knights are not doing such a great job, so I kind of quite happy to retreat.
It's possible to go knight b6, but actually
But can
maybe,
you just retreat the knight to e8 and then come in with the king?
Yeah, knight e8 is possible. You're right.
And then
well, a 5
and then
is
can
not possible. So
H6.
after our h6, probably the best, right?
Yeah.
Because after knight e6 or knight a6, black goes
Then
back.
you can go back, and now
Here, f5.
yeah,
And then nothing can stop
king
black to
f7.
bring his king, and after that from e8 to relocate the knight to d5. Well, this is going to be a sad story for white. And
Any way to mix it up?
I don't know, but if you think about it, we were talking move 12 about it, that positionally it's a very difficult position for white. If we go back right here, after white eliminated, exchanged the white square bishop, and they exchanged also on c3, we both thought that black has already a huge advantage. So this was a very serious problem, misplaying by Tari, this opening. So let's see where we are standing. And g4 is the move. g4 was played in order that he does not want to see the pawn on f5 for later.
Okay. This has its pluses.
Obviously, yes, but still, I think
King
black
f7.
will be going king f7. He
And-
can go king g6
Okay.
and play h5.
And what about if you play knight a6? You know,
After knight e6, already knight b5.
oh, knight b5 is
So
the problem.
this is
okay,
what-
so you have to again
This
wait.
is why
you
we
have to go
talked about
a4.
a4, correct? And after a4, I think king g6.
And now the idea is knight
And
a6.
if knight a6 or knight e6, then black just goes back.
And now the idea that I was thinking, knight goes back. So
But actually, even instead of going back, I think maybe knight b6 is possible, and regrouping this knight to c4 and capturing the a4, right?
can you do moves like? But then,
Well, you have to go back, I guess.
well, I was thinking
But
the
then
bishop could
knight
now
b5.
come out of its cage. It's been in there for such a long time, Judith.
Yeah, but it's not going to be helping you out. If you go bishop a3, you get knight a4, and after that, really, black is going to capturing all the pawns.
Oh.
King g2.
Oh dear. Yeah. King g2.
King g2.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh dear.
Actually, there are two ways of improving the position. There's another way, I think, to play h6 with the idea to play f5 and king f6. This is another way. After king g2, if black goes king g6, let's say. So after king g3, there are two ways, I would think. Either h5. And after takes, and then already nothing can stop black from playing f5 and f4 later on.
And then the white bishop is just truly caged in for
Yeah,
the rest
it's
of its life. I mean, whoa, what can we say?
An incredible example of how a knight can dominate a bishop.
This is
Then you
so
have a
rare.
very
I
bad bone structure.
haven't seen anything like that at all. Yeah.
So how many minutes do we have still to the playoff? It should be starting shortly, I guess. Let's see what we still have about
7 minutes.
7 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so the
Okay.
players are preparing. Probably the biggest preparation is walking in front of the hotel. But also at the same time, I know that after the game, they immediately grab their computer and they start checking something very fast. So even in these 20 minutes, I think they're checking their computers just to have the mindset ready for the opening.
Okay.
But I think it's also a big challenge for them how to prepare, whether just grab the computer, because obviously 20 minutes or 15 minutes is not enough to really make serious preparation, right?
That's true. So I've always envisaged this. So a player goes outside, gets some fresh air, calls the coach. Coach says, play this. And the guy goes, yep, good. Phone goes down. Ready, fit for fight.
Yeah, and probably it's partly true, but it also very much depends on the emotional aspect, how the first game finished. So what to play after that. And of course, you cannot have the lines, and if you decide to go something sharp or something, right?
Yeah. Because presumably these players have got like their bag of tricks prepared for this tournament. Like they must have like scenarios planned. So this is for my Armageddon games. This is for the classical games, and.
But sometimes we see only a repetition of the previous game. Like I can easily visualize that in the game we are going to see the same opening. So it's going to be a repetition because there is a battle between them, right? So Firouzja plays h4 again. Though I don't think he had such a good position after.
No, he spent a long time.
He'll spend a long time, but it's going to be, I think, again, Rossolimo with 3 bishop b5, only maybe something different.
Okay.
Because they have their mindset already, they had the preparation, they were into this game, this structure, this thing, and it can easily happen that there is a repetition of the same opening.
Yeah, I have to say I would agree with you if it was any other player except the top 10. But if it was me playing then Armageddon, I would say, yeah, there's only one opening I can play. So we're going to stick with that.
No, and of course he has to win, right?
Yes.
So this is also kind of interesting.
Yeah. No,
story.
we did see it in the US Aim Chess Rapid when Firouzja played Wesley So in the tie breaks, that he used something completely different. But, you know, Wesley was ducking and diving, trying to play different variations. And I was really impressed by Firouzja's choice of opening, that he played a very unusual line against the Petrov. And within a few moves, like, Wesley was lost. So...
Yeah. Well, let's see what happens. We still have a few minutes until then. With Aryan played king g2, and after king g6 he finally played a4.
Okay.
So a4 is on the board, and now the question is whether is it h5 or f5 is going to be the move of Richard.
My general understanding of endgames is that you kind of want to preserve your pawn structure. So I would be tempted to play h5 just to have that beautiful pawn structure intact on the right side.
But I think both are tempting, to be honest, because after f5, let's say, if takes and king f5. At the same time, it's also nice to have a passed pawn,
Yeah.
right, on the h5, and the two can support each other very much, the h and the g pawn, and the king stands also very well on f5. But I like both moves.
Yes.
I like both moves, f5 and h5. So, I mean, h5 looks very tempting, takes. And let's say if white goes knight e6, trying to capture the pawn on c7, then let's say c6, then white goes knight d8. And here there are some chances for white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Though we were discussing this knight b6, knight c6, and then knight 6, d6 to c4, and then this pawn is unprotectable. And then, so after a4, yeah, actually maybe f5 is the better move.
Oh, yeah, I like that one too.
Maybe f5 will be the better move, because after takes, white is not able to go knight e6, though he might be going from knight a6, with the idea after c6 to go from attack from b8, this pawn.
But we were looking at, after knight a6, we were looking at playing knight b6.
Yes, knight b6, and after knight c7,
Knight takes a...
knight a4, or knight c4 first.
Yep.
And only after that, in the next move, to
And still the white knight is powerless to do
and it's
anything.
good that the d4 pass pawn, the king is very near to that.
Yeah.
So that's really good for black. But now maybe Rapport will be thinking for a short time to really make the decision which one is better to play, f5 or h5.
So in this situation, Richard has just under 20 minutes. How much time should he dedicate to working out the best plan?
Well, it is a good question, but I think he has to calculate right now both. And it happens that you start calculating one, and then you say, well, I'm not sure about it, so let's try to make the other move. And actually he did play, so he was not spending too much time, and he decided the way to make h5. You wanted to go this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also. So let's see what, I mean, it's very logical, both of them. Because really to keep the pawn on f6, and then it's going to be f5, so basically 3 pawns against 1. Here it should be a win. The question is whether after knight e6 is he just going to be leaving his pawn behind, though he cannot go f5 because the g5 would be hanging. So, but maybe, for example, in this position, even king g4 would be so deadly dangerous, I think. And after knight c7, just to go f5, knight goes somewhere, f4, and look at these pawns and the knight completely killing the bishop on c1.
Yeah, it looks incredibly impressive.
So this is also kind of, looks extremely powerful. And
But
I think next move may be e3.
The next move does look like it could be e3, so what have we seen? Pawn takes.
Pawn takes
Pawn takes
h5.
pawn.
I would be very surprised if white would be saving this game. But it's clear that he's fighting. He's fighting a lot. So Tari is not giving up the game so easily.
No.
Though I wouldn't like to be in his place.
No, that is an exercise in suffering.
No,
but okay.
This is so sad.
But I always have this philosophy that you should just smile when you're defending and see what happens.
King g3.
Okay.
But why king g3?
Why not?
Well,
That's
I think
fine.
the only chance is somehow to grab that pawn, right?
Yeah.
I mean, black is going to go simply f5. So I think we should be having the game, and let's switch to the Armageddon game.
Yep.
I see the players are prepared and
And
made
they
their
are
first
off.
move. And
It's on the
let's-
left. Yeah, underneath those games.
I'm already down. So we hope to get the moves also. They are playing, it seems, too fast. I hope we will have the moves shortly.
Higher up. So you go higher into the middle, maybe. There you can see it.
Okay. Okay, so that's what we have, right? Same opening.
Yep, you called it. I stand corrected.
But after rook e1, there is a move b6 I've never seen in my life, which does not mean it's not good, but it's a very interesting choice by Magnus to play b6 and immediately to develop his bishop to b7. So,
yeah,
very interesting way of doing it. Usually in this kind of Pausen, Sicilian time, I don't know what to call it. Usually you have your pawn on a6 and b5, right? To have the pawn on b6 and a7 and have the bishop on b7, it is quite unusual, I must say. And of course it was a choice by Magnus, so in order to make Firouzja think, which
is a good strategy because he has 10 minutes on the clock as opposed to Magnus's 7 minutes. So.
And I must say that I think Magnus probably won the opening battle because White is going to be moving back his bishop to e2 or f1. F1 more probably. And then Black can go b5, Black can go knight g6. And I think Black has a wonderful game because usually it's not so easy to develop your bishop to b7.
Mm-hmm. Right. And normally White hasn't kind of committed the king to the king side either. So quickly when you see these b6 ideas.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think.
What an unexpected move, b6. It's just like that.
Well, this is what Magnus is fantastic at. You know, he's
Incredible.
One of the hardest working GMs, and his specialty is just
Though I don't
finding
understand really that after b6 why he went d4 and why not c3, the classical way of making this system. c3, d4. It was kind of not so logical to me. But okay.
Okay.
They know what they are doing. Bishop f1.
Bishop f1, and we're expecting. Are there any potential sacrifices on d5?
Oh, he's just simplifying. Magnus is just.
Oh, he's trying to kill the game. Okay, knight to c6.
He just goes quickly, and he wants to develop to c5 very quickly, or to e7, and just castle as fast as possible.
But are there kind of any potential ideas of the queen moving and then a knight planting itself on d5?
Yeah, absolutely. I think queen e3. I think bishop e5, bishop c5. But now, after bishop e7, you have in mind to go knight d5, which would be strong enough, I think. So this is why bishop e7 will not be played.
And if you go bishop c5, then the queen will swing to g3.
Yeah, but
and
now
then
bishop d4 can be an option, or castle, because after bishop h6, queen f6 can be a counter attack move.
Yeah.
But maybe after castle e5. So let's see how Magnus reacts on
queen e3.
On queen e3.
So a quick reminder of the rules. Alireza Firouzja has just 10 minutes on the clock. Magnus Carlsen has just 7 minutes. The players have kept the colours from when they originally played the classical game, and Firouzja has to win. Magnus has draw odds.
Yeah, and he's fighting for point and a half. Who wins? Or it's a draw odd for Magnus. So it's a draw, then also Magnus takes 1.5 points, and Firouzja will get only 1. And now Magnus is spending time. He's under 5 minutes. So actually there is a huge advantage in time for Firouzja. And Magnus knows it, that Firouzja is extremely fast, very good blitz player, one of the best in the world probably.
Yeah.
These days.
And we have
Bishop
some moves.
c5, Bishop c5, Queen g3. But I think it was a kind of a mistake that Magnus was thinking so long. Or it shows that he's somehow a little bit unsure of himself. So he wants to make sure, he wanted to double check that after bishop c5 there is no concrete huge problems will be happening.
Yeah.
Because the bishop on c5 stands very well on that diagonal.
Well, Firouzja just decides to play e5. Very committal move.
Yeah, e5 makes a lot of sense. He wants to go knight e4.
Knight e4, and then there's obviously bishop h6 in
And
there.
also bishop h6 in there because queen f6 is not possible anymore. And even bishop g5 can be strong.
Okay, so Magnus lashes out with f5.
f5, this is just, I wanted to say, I like this move, f5. It
Okay,
will be
but
taken.
what happens after pawn takes pawn?
Yeah, this is going to be the move. Takes,
And
knight
then
e4.
knight e4. Yes. And also kind of one mention about the clocks is that there will be no increments until the players have reached move 41, and then it will be 1 second increment per move, which is not that much time.
Actually, it's not so easy for black.
No.
Because after e takes f6, he's thinking again, and he's already under 4 minutes.
Yes.
And there is not much of a choice to carry.
But he takes with the rook.
Thinking with the rook because it's threatening bishop f2. So,
And how is the situation after pinning?
I don't know. I'm thinking now.
I'm thinking
what
of-
happens if bishop g5?
That's what I was thinking. So the idea is after bishop takes
Takes
pawn,
on
queen
f2,
takes, rook takes, and now bishop takes queen.
takes. Well, black has to just no other choice than to take. But here black is worse because I think, well, rook e1, rook d1. It's only one pawn for the exchange. So now it's a big question whether bishop g5 is possible or not. Because rook f2 seems to be a beautiful move, but after bishop d8, I don't see why is it good.
But there's a discovered check here, right?
Yeah, but it's only a check. Discovered check somewhere, okay? So black can go here and then.
But this
maybe
seems, if you're going to lose the exchange, this one seems a better.
This is a better
version.
way of sacrificing. And look what we have on the board.
Oh, we have it on the board, Judit. Wow. Okay.
Bishop g5, rook f2.
Okay.
Look what we have here on the board.
Well, Firouzja obviously has to capture the queen.
And this is what we're having here. Rook f3, king h1, rook g3. And now bishop b6. He even takes that pawn. And the problem is for black that after rook g5, knight e4. But what about rook c3? It's a blunder.
Yes.
Is it?
Oh.
No, because oh.
Rook b1.
Wow, how
Wow.
tricky.
These guys calculate so quickly. So
Wow.
Okay,
So
wait.
there was no option for black and he took on b6, h takes g3, bishop f2, capturing the g3 pawn. Wow, things are happening so fast.
yeah. Okay. So
Rook
the
e2.
Rook e2.
I guess bishop g3. That's what I'm expecting. Of course, it would be a nice dream to play rook f6 and to play rook f8, rook f6 and checkmate. But unfortunately for black, knight e4 would be a strong reaction on that. So things are not turning out so well for black because after bishop g3, Firouzja played knight e4, which is important because immediately he went knight c5, attacking the bishop and the pawn. So black is pushed back to play to bishop c8. This is not good.
Yeah. And he just has
One pawn.
one pawn for
One
the
pawn,
exchange.
but the problem is that he's not active. Actually, he went to passive play by playing bishop c8. So, of course, now black wants to grab the pawn on b2.
So it's
So I'm expecting to play
C3.
c3 or to play knight d3. Yeah, that's another option.
But taking a
Also,
look at the clock
rook d1.
times, well, Firouzja has 4.5 minutes, Magnus 3 minutes.
Well, it's not so easy to convert his advantage for white. That's clear. Rook d1 is also something to play, I think. Because this is very important for white, that his knight on c5 and it pushed back the bishop. But white played c3 after all, d6, and now
Knight,
black.
Knight has to retreat.
Well, the question is whether to a4 or to d3.
kind
After
of.
d3, probably bishop f6 will be the move. Somehow it's good for black to keep the bishop pair. And it's also the bishop on f6 controls puts a difficulty for white to be able to push his pawns, I think.
It's not easy actually to win this position with white because
He went knight e4, centralized his knight, king
Okay.
f7, so he's heading to e7 after rook d1. To
King
go king
e7.
e7, and this is what we are having on the board.
and maybe rook d.
So this bishop on e5 is a key player
Yeah.
in this game.
It's
And
holding
later
it
on-
together.
Yeah, later on d5 is something black wants to do. Also rook b8 to put pressure on the b file. For the moment, the bishop will stay on c8, I think, or it's going to be moving to d7.
I think it's good to move it to d7 and then that way it's
G3.
still.
G3, white
G3?
wants to activate his bishop through bishop g2. And for now, d5, after that, white wants to go knight c5, and the pawn is takeable, but then rook d5. So this is the exchange, what Firouzja wants to do in this position.
Yeah, that would be a dream for black.
For white, you mean?
Yeah, for white, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because it's very important to see the activity of the pieces, and this can be very important for white. Rook b8 is played, as we were suggesting it, bishop g2, d5. So now the question is where the knight is going to move into g5,
Knight to g5.
or to c5.
No, it's gone to c5.
c5. This is what I thought, that it's going to go there. But now,
Okay, so you can't move the dark square bishop.
what about
because of-
playing king d6? Because for now b4 is not really possible because of bishop. Bishop c3, knight e4. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So king
Nice.
d6, b4 would be the move, and king d6 is on the board.
Yeah.
But after b4, what Magnus has in mind, I don't know.
Maybe he
And
wants to
b4
play
is on the board. Maybe he blundered this move.
a5.
a5, a3, clear. Things are speeding up, and Magnus is under 2 minutes.
Okay, and I have
Under
to tell
2
you,
minutes.
it is move 30. So that means 10 more moves until the players start getting that
Fantastic, 1 second more.
You never know.
This
Yeah.
this bonus, like they deserve it, right?
Yeah,
1
yeah.
second extra. So a takes b4, rook a8, controlling the a file, which can be important, looking for counter chances on a3. So that's where Magnus is looking for counter chance, pinpointing out the c3 weakness. And also don't forget that the g3 pawn is also there. So the e5 bishop is the key player here still.
But so far there's no danger because of white playing knight to e4 check.
Yes.
So the pawns are okay for the time being. And
It's very interesting how Magnus just eliminated and exchanged the a pawns, and now he's looking for counter chance on a3 with his rook. So for the moment, it's not. I don't see how white is going to win, because if he would be moving away, he cannot move away because then already it's takeable the pawn.
Okay, well, we have a-
What happened? What happened?
He gave a
Knight
check.
e4 check, king c7,
and now b5.
b5 instead of moving away his knight. Takes and rook e4. Look at this, what is going on. What genius this guy is.
Yeah.
Look, Firouzja, what kind of move he found, just 2 minutes on his clock, and he found this incredible. And the real threat is not b takes c6. The real threat is rook c4, and also to capture the bishop on e5. So he surprised Magnus quite a bit by playing this move. What a beautiful solution.
It's a beautiful, very effective.
What a beautiful solution. I think
mean-
rook e4 was a surprise to Magnus. He goes in rook a3. This was obvious that this is the way he wants to save himself. So after rook c4, and I think rook c4 will be the move. And after rook c3, rook c1 is possible, or to play rook takes c3, bishop c3, and white is not going to take on c6, but I think rook c1 will be the stronger problem. And this is what we have on the board, rook c4, rook c3, 120 against
53
53
seconds. And move 35. So move 41 is when they get that lovely 1 second increment. And yes, Firouzja is certainly playing very impressively.
Very impressive
I have
solution,
to say,
what he found.
Magnus, after making that critical move
And
f5.
we have rook c3, bishop c3, rook
Rook
c1 on the
C1.
board, knight a7. Of course, Magnus is an amazing defender, so he will not give up until the very last moment.
Okay.
Rook c3, king b6, very important that the c6 square is defended, and of course the bishop on c8. So now let's see how Firouzja will solve this problem. Bishop c6.
Hang on
now
a second. Can you not play?
Fortunately for black, he
Knight
cannot
takes
take
pawn.
because... Sorry?
Can you not play knight takes pawn
Oh, and check.
and then throw in a check?
Yes, but then king h2, king b5, rook c7, and grabbing the pawn on the 7th rank. So this probably is a lost position.
Okay.
But black played e5 instead. So let's see what happened. He played e5, and what has happened?
So he's played
Got
e5,
lost.
and now the bishop came to
Yeah,
d8.
white went king g1, bishop f5, and he moved away with his bishop because by now knight c6 capturing the bishop was already a threat. So now black has to take care about his knight because knight b5 is not possible to rook b3 pin.
Okay.
And so black played g6, rook a3. No, sorry, g6, king f2, h5, trying to stabilize the pawn structure over there. Rook a3, now obviously the threat is rook a6 check, pushing the king back, which just happened, bishop e4, rook a6, king b7, rook e6, and it's getting worse and worse for Magnus because the e5 pawn is falling off, and the knight on a7 is exceptionally bad.
And the players are really speeding up and making the digital board catch up with them.
it
Because
was rook
suddenly we have a
f6.
whole load of moves.
Okay, so we follow. Oh, wow! Look at this, 7 seconds, 1 second. What's going on?
Yeah.
Did he lose on time?
No, they're still going.
No, 4 seconds. So I'm changing. Sorry,
So-
things are speeding up so much. What's going on?
The players were on 1 second increment. You couldn't.
So it seems like Magnus.
Magnus drew, I think.
I don't know. Maybe Firouzja just
It was a draw.
ran out of time, but it's a draw.
Yes.
This is the information we receive. Well,
It was madness at the end. No one could keep up.
Yeah,
And the players had to play thick and fast, and you know, it's a tough system.
well, obviously, I mean, Firouzja played incredible chess
Yeah.
in this game with so many ideas, and he was so fast. But eventually, Magnus.
No, Magnus did
when
what
things are really sharp and really hot, then somehow
Yeah.
he gets out of it.
Yes. Maybe we can show the critical point. So it's on move 51, and that's when things just went slightly
went-
haywire.
Yeah,
for
king went out, so white is threatening to capture on g5. But after h3, then
Yeah.
he lost his rook.
Yes.
Okay, so in this position, probably if white goes king g1, then the game is over because black is going to be losing his pawn on g5, right? And after knight e4, white can just go bishop d5, let's say. Maybe this is the simplest way of doing it. And then, I mean, white has 2 pawns and exchange up. But of course, the players had only seconds left, and there's a huge blunder by Firouzja, and he had to give up his rook. And in this position already, it's a draw. So, which means that Magnus is the winner. He collected 1.5 points, and Firouzja for sure. He won 1 point today, but he feels like, and he made the 2 draws, but still feel like.
No, it feels like a loss, especially in such a cruel way. You know, he will feel that in the heat of the moment, he just completely blew his chances.
And he
missed it.
created for himself such an incredible.
He played fantastically.
I mean, he went from e5 practically. He really created for himself. I mean, if we go again in this position, and he had he had a beautiful technique. He understood exactly where he has to put his pieces, right? He regrouped his pieces. His knight, he went to c5, came back, he put his bishop on the long diagonal.
Yeah.
Then Magnus allowed him to play this b4. Of course, he saw this tactic, so the c3 and g3 pawn was not able to, black to take it.
This bit he handled superbly, and incidentally, we have another result. Aryan Tari has lost to Richard Rapport.
Okay, so maybe we go back there, because hoping to have the players here. And let's see what has happened during the game with the Armageddon game. f5 happened here, and as we expected, f4, and it seems like Tari wanted to give a chance for himself by sacrificing the bishop, and that's how he wanted to activate his king. But then there is a move check on f5 first, and only after king h3 he captured on f4, which means that the white king is not active at all, and the black just regrouped some of his pieces. After all, it's a piece up, so for a long time we were seeing this position having a bishop, a very bad bishop on c1, but it's still better having a bad bishop than no bishop, because this is what happened for white. And black is just regrouping his knight, which we were expecting much more previously if the bishop would be still on c1. But of course, this is only a matter of technique, and there is no chance really to save the game with two knights against one. And slowly there was a little touch, final touch, deflecting the knight here, and he just simply resigned.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a very sad game for Tari.
Yeah, I feel like he made one strategic blunder, and that was it. He was groveling for the rest of the game.
Well, this is what happens when you play against a very strong player. If you make a strategic blunder, because this was a blunder, that
It's trading off the light square
Tari
bishops. Yeah.
played, that I don't know if he missed that it was possible to exchange the knight first and after that the bishop. But sometimes it is the case that strategically you make a mistake like this and it can cost you the whole game.
Yeah, I feel that Aryan didn't really have a chance, actually. I mean, maybe there were some odd moments to kind of grovel a little bit more, but it was very difficult.
I think it's also important at what mindset you're playing, because I had the feeling when he chose to go e takes d5 in the early part of the game to exchange the pawns, play a symmetrical position, a solid position, because specifically against Rapport he didn't want to go into sharp lines and calculations. And I felt maybe it was not necessarily a great decision, but later on when he played bishop e2, I think this was a bad sign really, when he lost one tempo, because in such a position you can't really afford losing a tempo like this. I understand that he wanted to save his pawn on d4, but things were just not going on his way, and knight a4 was a positional blunder.
Yeah, he just I think he played a little bit too cautiously, but
Yes,
I think he was so determined to kill the game that he just completely overlooked the fact that, hey, Richard is also a fantastic strategical player as well, and this one was one step too far. So, yeah, and wow, what an exciting day we've had.
Yeah, it was a great warm-up for the tournament.
I know. So we had Richard Rapport displaying his finest positional moves, and then we have an Armageddon match between Magnus Carlsen and Firouzja, and Firouzja so close to defeating the world champion.
Yeah, but he's very young. He's very young. He has plenty of time to experience these things. But of course, probably he does not have these feelings. He wanted to score the full point in the Armageddon, and he had it in his hands.
No, he definitely had it. I mean, he played that part in the endgame where as soon as he won the exchange, he played that fantastically. And it just seems to be in the last heat of the moment, you know, when the players had seconds left on the clock, that suddenly it all collapsed with that one terrible move.
Yeah, because when you have only seconds on the clock, suddenly it's all about intuition. It's all about your mindset. And of course, when you see that you're winning the game, you have it in your hands, you know it, and you just fall out from the moment. And then you make a blunder, because it was a serious blunder what he did there, because he just had to make a move, right?
Yeah.
So it was not a question of making a move or not. He just had to make a move. Anything comes to mind first. And